Welcome to the Millennial Diner podcast. I'm here, as usual, at the diner with Phil, and today we are joined by Joe Rabaka, who is going to enjoy some diner food with us and maybe talk a little music. I'm actually going to have just a bagel with peanut butter today.
Oh.
I'm going to hold off on the strawberry jam, the packet.
Jam.
I don't want the packet today. Yeah. So just the bagel, coffee with some oat milk. Yeah, I think that will work for me today. But Joe, what are you going to have today?
What kind of bagel are you having?
Well, it's a diner, so I'm kind of at the mercy of what they have. But you know, Flo likes me. I think Flo is probably saving everything for me.
That's fair. I'm gonna go with pancakes and hash browns.
Ooh.
Coffee, half and half, one sugar, and then I'm definitely gonna get a black and white with a coffee to go.
Oh, I like that. You already know your exit strategy.
I know coming in that's going to be my exit strategy, and then I kind of have to base the actual meal around the black and white.
So you work backwards. So
I work
like
backwards.
from dessert forward.
Yeah, but like I know that the black and white is going to be, like crucial. That's a given. And I also feel like I'm normally an omelet person, but I have to know the place because I feel like you get burned on omelets most of the time.
Or you get a burnt omelet.
Omelet.
But so you're going to get a cookie after having a pancake, which is kind of like a dessert food as a meal.
Yeah, see, that was my problem. I was like, I want to go.
No judgment. I think it's awesome.
No, 100% inclusive show. If you want to have sugary, in an order, you do it.
I've never been here before, so.
You got to play it safe a little. I get it. I get you. Yeah, no, it's the same thing. I find myself often, I myself am just going to have rye toast with this much butter and a black coffee. That's what I'll have today.
How much butter? Because we're an audio medium.
We are. So that's like maybe an inch if you were to spread out your forefinger and thumb, about an inch worth of butter.
An inch of butter.
Inch of butter.
So toast and coffee, once again.
Toast and coffee. That's what we go with. I find that when I go to a new restaurant that I don't know, I will often look for the thing on the menu that I'm very familiar with and order that to go for a safe bet. Like if I go to a new Italian place I've never been to, I'll do chicken parm because I will know the quality of the restaurant because I've eaten enough chicken parm in life. So I feel you. Let's go. I like it. Let's go with the pancakes, black and white cookie.
Hash browns too. Don't forget that.
Hash browns too.
Salty Ed flavor.
Yes, I gotta cut with something.
Well, that's the saltiness. It's like Jeff and me. I mean, he's the sweet, I'm the salty. So there you go. I get it.
Jeff's the sweet?
Damn right.
Compared to me.
It's mind blowing.
Well, that doesn't bode well for me then, does it? If I'm the salty or one of the two.
Well, speaking of sweet and salty, I was thinking a lot about 1995.
Good year.
Yeah, it was a sweet year. It was also a salty year.
That's true.
And actually, I don't really remember much about 1995, but I did look up what some of the best movies were from 1995, and there's some really good ones. Seven, David Fincher's Seven. Have we all seen that?
I have.
Yes. I was gonna
Cool.
say, I feel like mid-90s is like everything kind of looked like David Fincher. Just very like movies were dark and wet looking.
Well, it's funny because that's Brad Pitt, and then also 12 Monkeys came out in 95, which also looks dark and wet. You had Toy Story, very dark and wet. Yeah. And
Waterworld.
Waterworld was that? Wow.
That's just wet.
Yeah.
Just wet.
And my eyes were wet every time I watched Before Sunset, which came out in 1995. Because people keep squirting water guns into my eyes while I watch it, which is weird.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's right, though. Don't do it during Before Sunset, though, because that's my favorite. And all these movies, especially the Before series, they elicit some melancholy in me and add to my infinite sadness. which is why I think today's a perfect day to talk about Smashing Pumpkins' 1995 album, Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness.
But it's funny that we're this is something a little out of the norm. We're going back a little bit, but I want to ask, do we think this is an emo album? Is this an emo album?
No.
No.
No. Why not?
I don't think it's an emo album, but I think that it is like it presages the popularity and aesthetic of that like popularized emo will take in the early 2000s. Like there's obviously no My Chemical Romance without this influence. There's not like, or that band doesn't exist in the way that it does without this album.
I think that's definitely true aesthetically and just thematically, the way the songs kind of play out in the storytelling. And also, I remember reading a long time ago in some alternative press magazine, I'm sure, that the Way brothers of My Chemical Romance actually attended this tour at Madison Square Garden. And it was a very influential. The fact that they even talked about it as being an important moment lends itself to that. So they were definitely at that prime age when this album came out to be like, oh, this is something we can do.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? I was at that same show.
Were you really?
Madison Square Garden. Yeah.
Wow.
They played forever.
They're still playing, I hear.
Like, yeah, they're not even done. Still going. That show is still going. But yeah, that was my first. Was it that one? Or was that my second one? First or second concert I ever went to. First of that scale to going into, because I got to go in LIRR into and then work my way up to Madison Square Garden from there. From Penn Station. It was great. That was like my first thing. I went with a couple of friends. No idea who I went with anymore. Can't even remember it. I just remember going on the show, and I remember it's not Buffalo Tom. It was like, or is it Buffalo Tom? Some band named Buffalo in the front. Opened for it. It was a Buffalo Tom. Okay, and then they opened for it, and I was like, I was so excited just to finally get to the Smashing Pumpkins because I lost it when they came on, and then they played for so long. I remember getting tired and having to sit down. I was like new to this whole world of rock shows that I was like, I'm a little. I need to take a nap real quick. I'm just gonna sit down.
So okay, so you're at that show. How old are you?
At that show, 15, 16.
Okay. Yeah.
Give or take. Depends. I forget when it landed, but that'd be the age.
Yeah. So yeah, it was probably like 96, early 96. So I feel like I love this album. It's not my favorite Smashing Pumpkins album, but I feel like this album is pure nostalgia. And now like removed from it, it's like nostalgia for nostalgia, like just nostalgia lumped on nostalgia. And I think it's a great record. But if you came to this album like in 2023, never hearing the Smashing Pumpkins, never hearing this, it's gonna be cloying, and like you're not gonna come to it with that teenage kind of appreciation,
Which is funny because I feel like a lot of the songs, I feel like a teenager wrote the songs, the way they're so it's interesting you say that. That's because it's funny going back and listen to it again. I have to admit, I would want to skip whatever song I was like, back then. I was still with, but one change, my opinion changed. I actually was like, this is a better song than I remember it being. But it generally, my thing with double albums is, I feel like they're always too long and they get condensed a little bit. Like I wouldn't even know where to start with this, but like if you took some out, you'd probably have an astonishingly good Smashing Pumpkins album if you took out some songs. But I don't know what I would take out. So I should not have said that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but it's like if you look just at the singles that are on the first disc, it's like I think 4 out of the 5 singles are on that first, or in the span of the first 6 songs on the album. And then the third song, Jelly Belly, was originally gonna be the lead single. And then the second disc just has their biggest song ever. 1979 is on the second disc, and that's the only single. But like right there, you've got more than half an album just in the first side, the singles from the first side plus the intro.
Well, it's also interesting talking about the singles because my sense memory for this album is it is very much the singles I'm attached to as opposed to the whole album. Like that's what I'm nostalgic about, those songs, whether it's Tonight Tonight or Zero or like those are the songs that like always made mixes for me and stuff like that. So I kind of like for a long time appreciated Smashing Pumpkins for their singles as opposed to their albums.
So
on that, you mentioned this is not your favorite Smashing Pumpkins album. Is there an album you adore a lot more?
Yeah, I love Adore. I feel like Adore, for whatever, shit gets talked about it by people, I feel like Adore is perfect. It's hard for me because I feel like it's funny being on this podcast because there's very little in terms of music that I am nostalgic for. But Smashing Pumpkins, particularly Siamese Dream Through a Door, I just think is incredible. Like I will never stop listening to them. I love them. And they're all so distinct to me and they show this progression that I really appreciate. I also will say, speaking of double albums, I am very much an albums person. I love records, so I love listening straight through. I want to know what they're trying to do. I'm not a singles person at all. I like the singles, but I'm in it for like their full thesis of what they're trying to do.
No, and for me, like going back now the last few years and kind of revisiting this album as a whole, it's definitely I've learned a lot. There's a lot of great songs on here that I never really kind of paid attention to because I'm like, oh, the world is a vampire. Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like part of the getting back to Adore, I feel like part of the commercial disappointment with Adore, it's like, how could it not be a commercial disappointment when you release this double album? So Siamese Dream comes out and it's perfect, but it's like, I think the main criticism of it was that it was a little too samey. But it also was like insane. Like there was nothing that sounded like that, like at the time. The guitar tones and the way that his vocals sit kind of like just above the guitars. And he was so fanatical about recording it. It's amazing. And then so the criticism that it was too samey, he comes back with, I think he had written 64 songs or something for Mellon Collie. And it's all over the place,
a lot of different sounds. It's funny you bring that up. The different types of sounds because this album goes in a bunch of weird like there's like country songs on this. There's some weird. There's like an industrial song. Like there's like a lot of it. It runs the gamut of all the different things. What listening to it again, I still identify with like there was two songs that I identified with back then that aren't singles, and they're the only two. I think I really was like, all right, these are like my jams, and I kind of and I dig them. But for me, what I like about you talked about nostalgia. Now, for me, this is the first time when I first listened to it, and the lead track, lead single comes out, Butterfly Wings. It was the first time that I had heard in a pop song, screaming, and that was a okay thing to have in a pop song, right? And that's what I love about this album. It's actually nostalgia for me is what introduced me to the concept that you could have screaming in songs, because that was a new thing for me. About that point, I had listened to a lot of metal. My sisters, my two older sisters brought me into, my oldest sister brought me into a lot of 80s metal. One more sister, my other sister, Liz, brought me into early 90s metal. So like Liz, maybe I was listening to Typo Negative in the car with Liz, and like, but nothing had ever introduced a concept of screaming into a song. So this kind of was like, oh, you can do that, and that's okay. And I was like, wow, this album opened up that concept for me that you can scream and sing in a song, and it's totally acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, the
Well,
dynamics are all over the place. And I
All
feel
over
like
this.
that's one of the kind of the pitfalls of it is that this album sold like 10 million copies or something, which is crazy for a double record. But like, you're playing to so many. I feel like so many people are drawn in by Bullet with Butterfly Wings or Zero, and it's like that's not what this record is. It's partly what this record is, and then Adore delivers none of that. Like Adore was like, come on with me on this voyage. Here, I'm gonna have more mature songwriting, and I lost my drummer, who is one of the best drummers I've ever heard. Jimmy Chamberlain is incredible. But he wasn't, he got kicked out of the band after the Mellon Collie tour because of the overdose of their keyboard player.
Right.
Um,
I remember that. Actually, now that I think about it, that show was supposed to be my first show, but then all that shenanigans happened, so they had to delay it, and so I ended up seeing live as my first actual show. This was my second show. Now I think about all that.
okay.
wow, you see live?
I saw live at Jones Beach.
Wow, I had not thought about that band in forever.
It was actually it was a pretty good show. Well, no, 2/3 of it was good. So Veruca Salt opened and they killed it. It was
Oh, that's
loud.
cool.
It was awesome. PJ Harvey played second, and you can
Oh,
literally
whoa.
hear you can hear but you could hear the audience talking over her.
Oh,
Oh, it was bad. It was so bad. And then Smash the live played third.
Wow.
you could do that show now and have PJ Harvey be the headliner.
She'd be the headliner, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very strange, but yeah, it's I remember feeling bad because you could literally hear conversations over the songs.
Man.
We didn't appreciate it back then. 96. I think it must have been 96. Probably was when I went to that show.
Yeah, that's a weird thing too. It's like you don't appreciate, when these things are current, but then in retrospect, it's such a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
They take on this like mythos almost. Speaking of live, I feel like everyone I knew that had that CD got it through like Columbia House.
Columbia House. Yeah, I think it was either BMG or Columbia House. I got that one. Yeah.
No one actually ever purchased a live album. It was for a penny you got.
Well, why would you buy anything with Columbia House? It's like, what was it? Buy one a year and you get 10 free with some stupid thing like that.
Yeah,
It was like a monthly, right?
Was it monthly? Was it once a month?
No, they would send you one once a month, whether or not you asked for it. And then it was this whole pain in the ass to like, if you were like, I remember being like 13 or 14 and getting albums sent to me, and they're like, oh, okay, this album is $35, and being like, I don't have money. Like, what? Like, how are teenagers just entering enforceable contracts with this company?
Well, they're not, because you're not 18. So the business model was doomed to begin with.
Flawed. Deeply
Yeah.
flawed.
Yeah.
90s were a wild time. Wild time.
Feels like
Okay.
in retrospect like the Wild West. Like
Well, think we used to get contracts for cell phones, like
Yeah.
ridiculous contracts for cell phones way back when.
Yeah.
Wild time.
So
Wild.
Columbia House is basically the original Napster for teens.
Well, no, because we weren't sending you physical CDs and trying to charge you $40 for Green Day's Insomniac.
Worth it. Worth every penny.
Worth every penny. That's my favorite Green Day album right there. Is Insomnia. Worth it. Worth every penny.
All right. Before we go down to make this a Green Day podcast, which we tend to do every time.
Every time.
And if you're angry about Phil making every podcast a Green Day podcast, please send your letters to New Hampshire.
Please, I look forward to my mailbox being stuffed full of letters. I love it.
Just going back to why this album is such a huge success with the singles, I think also in the mid 90s, it's not just the singles. They were the masters of the music video. I mean, their videos are so iconic. I mean, both the 1979 video and this 1999 video are like two of the greatest music videos. And that one too, with the pit of people. And
so before, I know you want to get to the Tonight video, but I just want to jump in. Lead single wise, I feel like Jelly Belly is a better song. I don't actually like Bullet with Butterfly Wings all that much, but I do think that was the right single for this album.
Oh, 100%. Oh, I agree. I
Because
agree.
the video is great. It really plays off the Woodstock 94 like mud pit.
Yeah.
You know, it's got all the people coming on the mountain. But also just the way it begins, and the chorus is so sing-songy. Was really smart. And it also is like not that removed, because the album is so removed from Siamese Dream, I feel like.
Yeah.
But that's kind of okay, this is, I get this is an evolved band, but it's they're still doing something I'm somewhat familiar with. But then if you listen to the out, like, I got this record, I remember, for Christmas in 1995. And I remember putting it on and just like mainlining it, just listening to it straight through. And I love so much, like I had said, I'm an album guy. I love the artwork on this record. I love everything about it. And the fact that it starts with this little piano overture that is, the album title. It's just like such an announcement of like, yo, this is not Siamese Dream. Like, this is, if you came here for that, that's not what this is. It very much announces itself off the bat.
Well, also, if this is an album for teenagers, angsty teenagers, first of all, your first single is got the hook of "Despite all my rage, I'm just a rat in a cage." So you're immediately plugging into teen angst, coming out of a couple of years past the grunge era. So there's all that part of it. But then, as you're saying, I imagine that there's a lot of 14-year-old, 15-year-olds out there who've never heard a double album before, who never heard like a concept album before. So by having that piano intro at the beginning, it's almost kind of like you're setting the table that you're like, oh, you're about to enter something different that you've ever experienced before.
Yeah, it's very
Like,
declarative. I would even argue, I feel like this is the spiritual successor to Nevermind.
oh, interesting.
Interesting. Ooh, I like that. Why do you say that?
Because I feel like it goes in a direction. Oh man, I can talk about this stuff forever. It kind of goes in a direction that I think Nirvana was going ahead if they didn't break up. Because Kurt Cobain had said he wanted to do more orchestral stuff. He wanted to do more acoustic stuff. And not that he would, they're so. I was telling Jeff, I was trying to work out this whole Batman metaphor for Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and whatever. It fell pretty flat. But, Nirvana got famous in spite of themselves. And Billy Corgan, one of the reasons I feel like he has so much trouble in the press, and he's just really like, he does himself no favors. He's kind of insufferable, but he is a brilliant musician. But he wanted it, and it wasn't cool to want it. He was
That's
never
interesting.
cool. He's never been cool. He's never gonna be cool. Darcy and James Iha are very cool, but Billy Corgan is not cool. And Billy Corgan is driving this, every creative element of this band.
Well, it's funny too when you say that premise that he wanted to be famous, he wanted to be this rock star, because I think this album also has this like feel of like there's like, it makes me think of like 70s rock at certain moments. Like,
Yeah.
it clearly what he grew up idolizing and said, I want to be a rock star, is coming out very much so in the Smashing Pumpkins. That's why you can't really quite say what kind of, like, they're not a grunge band, they're not a punk band, they're an alt rock band is probably like the best way to describe it, only because they kind of mix everything.
Right. They got a psychedelic element to them. They've got a gothy industrial, especially on Adore, they have kind of like those elements coming in. But I think the fact that Billy Corgan has always said that he does not come from a punk scene. He does not appreciate punk. He thinks you should be good at your instrument. And it's not like I don't think it's, well, with him, it's always kind of like backhanded. But the rivalry between him and Kurt Cobain is like, he's chasing something that he just cannot get, It's like, I remember hearing him talk about Kurt Cobain's solos and talking about how they're like anti-solos versus Billy Corgan. Like, he's one of the best 90s guitar, or like he's such an impressive guitarist. Like his mastery of melody and tone and all of that is just incredible. His solos are wild.
It's funny you say that because of understanding one of the songs he does a solo on. I was like, okay, that's changed my opinion on it. It's hearing that solo again. It's funny though when I think about Smashing Pumpkins in general, not just this album, but in general, I feel that they are the epitomal sound of the 90s. Like if you picked a band for every year, like for me, you talked about 1970. So I think the sound of like the 70s rock is Boston. I think the
Yeah.
way like Boston plays, if you sum up how the 70s rock scene sounded, to me, Boston is that band. It's just the way they did the guitar work,
Yeah.
the two guitars, the vocals. That is the sound of 70s rock.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would put in for 80s rock. I'd have to think on that one. But for 90s, like those sum up
Rick Springfield.
yeah. Well, we all want Jesse's girl. But with the 90s, I'd summarize Smashing Pumpkins. The sound is what is the 90s because it incorporates, like you just said a minute ago, it incorporates the industrial, the goth. There's alternative sides to it. It's loud. There's a like the beat is such a 90s rhythm, it's just if you were gonna that for me, that's it. Smashing Pumpkins is the sound of what the 90s are because
Yeah.
it takes where Nirvana started and then went a further with it.
I don't want to give the game away, but I have taken copious notes on this record because it is so long. But I did make a note talking about Siamese Dream that it is basically flawless, and it's what I think about when I think of the early 90s musically.
It's just the sound. It's the sound, right? I guess U2 would be the sound of the 80s. That would be, but now I have to go back and think about it. That's probably the early 80s sound, probably U2-ish. Anyway.
Well, we're talking about sound so much. I know this is a little different than how we normally handle it, but I think we should hear what the 90s sounded like. Joe, is there a song you just want to start us off we should listen to?
Oh God. I would kick off with the song that was originally intended to be the lead single, Jelly Belly.
Fantastic. All right. Here is Jelly Belly. And that was Jelly Belly. I mean, Joe, you mentioned that this could have been the first single, and like, it rocks. It's got such a drive.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
it
got
is
a lot of what Bullet has too, like in terms of sound and being kind of like, this makes sense coming off of Siamese Dream, as like their next single, first single from this record. But I think what I read was that the record company really pushed for it. And I really think that picking Bullet was the reason that this album sold as well as it did. The single, the video for that single, just amazing.
What I like about this one, I actually I have to look at it in kind of connection with the last song, the second song on the album. So where this comes from. This comes in the other one, the second song ends. This comes in hot, big, loud. It's loud. It's in your face. But it's also where we get the first idea or concept of nothingness and like despair, which is a prevalent theme throughout the rest of the album, and it's in stark contrast to Tonight. Yeah. Like stark contrast between that, and I think that actually sets up a theme of duality. We're gonna go with that since it's a double album that goes throughout the rest of the album, where 1 and 2 songs kind of work either with each other connectedly or work against each other to a greater purpose.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that throughout the album. There's like interconnectedness or flow. I think the sequencing of this record is great. I think the split between the two sides is great. I feel like it gets criticized for not making sense, like Dawn to Dusk and Starlight to Moon, what is it? Twilight to Starlight. That it doesn't really make sense how they get split up because the second disc is so much heavier. Or it has more of the heavier songs. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Phil. Like There's a lot of that duality. There's a lot of the flow from track to track being important.
Well, in respect to the sequencing, which we've already gone off the rails on in our discussion, should we backtrack and start? We have the piano opening, the set the mood, and then we go into Tonight,
Yeah.
which one of my favorite songs of all time, just straight up. And I think it's really interesting in the context of the album because it's probably the most hopeful song.
That's funny you say that, because I feel like the album because I love the instrumental piece. I really do. It's actually a great piece of just music, but I'm not going to say that's where the album, that's just the table setting. And then the album starts with Tonight. But I think it's funny you bring that up, because in the end, talk about duality, this album starts and ends with hopeful songs with a lot of scary shit in between.
Yeah.
A lot of scary. But Tonight specifically, one, music video is amazing, which was funny because when that music video dropped, Jeff and I were really getting into film in high school. And we, the Lumiere brothers that's where the history of film comes from. And the video itself is like an homage to that. So interesting little sidebar to that. Great song.
Trip to the Moon, right?
Trip to the Moon. That's right. But what I love, why I think it's so positive, is it comes down to the one line where it says the impossible is possible tonight. Favorite line on the song, because that's where you're showing it tonight, in this very moment, this very right now, anything is possible. It's such a positive thought.
Yeah, and it feels also like, they were already a big band. They were an established band. They had, Gish was, before the Offspring Smash came out, Gish was the highest selling independent release ever. And I mean, Smash blew it out of the water. I think Gish sold maybe like just shy of 1 million. But they were,
which is respectable.
Totally
as an independent record. I mean, that's respectable to get that
and you
much.
Think about it now. You think about record sale, like actual record sales now. It's like that would be number one, a number one record. Like, but so that they were around. Siamese Dream sold, I think, like 4 million. But this record really establishes them as like something special, and I always feel like it's nice. It makes me feel like I'm along on the journey when it's like someone is acknowledging like that they're primed for like success. And I feel like he knew that this was going to be big. And I feel like that line from Tonight kind of is a wink to that.
Well, the other line too that I think comes right after it, that I always like glom onto is the crucify the insincere tonight, which he's also setting up like you're about to go through on a very melodramatic journey.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, we're going to have all the feelings and I'm going to talk about it all. And like, it's okay to kind of live in your feelings and feel the highs and lows. And like, he's really kind of like, be sincere. Right. And that's what he's trying to set up.
Totally. It's not tongue in cheek. It's not Nirvana. It's aesthetically similar, but it is legit and it's earnest. Yeah.
That's it. I was going back. Earnest. It's the resolute urgency of now.
Yeah.
Like right now matters. Not later on, not yesterday, which is ironic considering the theme throughout of it, how the past plays into our lives and shapes us so much.
Yeah.
But right now, just trust me with this. Follow me on this journey. We're going to be okay. It's an interesting. It's a great song. It's probably one of my. I'll be honest. Probably one of my favorite opening songs to an album, because the instrumental sets the tone musically. Because I think actually a lot of elements of the orchestral pieces throughout, but the tone and the vibe of the song of the Tonight is really what sets up the whole album.
Yeah.
Well, it's also so theatrical, and it's like I could see like a Broadway show opening with this song. You know what I mean? Like it really is like bombastic and like filled with to the brim with like sound and like and then the video, of course.
Yeah.
The beautiful video. I've mentioned this to Joe off the podcast many times, but one of my goals in life is to dress like Billy Corgan in this video every day.
You just need a top hat, bro. You could pull that.
It's got to be the right top hat, though.
Is it even a top hat, or is it just a what do you call that one?
A bowler hat?
Bowler hat. Yeah, now I'm looking at the picture of it. Yeah, it's a bowler hat. You could pull a bowler hat.
I can't remember. Was Zero the second single, or was this the second single?
Well, I'm trying to figure out too, because which video did he lose his hair in?
It had to be Zero. Yeah, like that's bold too. Like Bullet with Butterfly Wings, he's still got kind of that like cropped, shorter. He doesn't have his like mane from Siamese Dream. And then to just go full on like I look like a grown-up Charlie Brown who listens to T-Rex is a really bold.
This is the oh man, this was the third single.
This is the third single. So Zero is the second single. Yeah.
No, Zero was the fourth. I'm looking it up. It's Bullet, then 1979, Tonight. Yeah, this is yes. And Zero was fourth. In 33, it finishes off as fifth.
Yeah, I knew 33 was last. But I thought like that was his introduction to this new shocking look. Was in Zero, but yeah, I guess it was 1979.
Well, he's in the backseat of the car. That's when you first notice him bald. Yeah, because he's like in the back of the car, like
right.
Yeah.
Like Cherub Rock music video, amazing. Today, incredible.
I love the Today video. That's so great. This like strange ice cream man's run around the fields where it looks like the girl from the Bumblebee girl was going to pop up at some point during that
James
video.
Eha just leaning out and shooting his ray gun. Oh, that I was going to say that too about tonight. James Eha looks fucking mortified to be there. Like,
do you think that's like a thing through the band? Like when you have like a really artsy guy as a leader, and you're just kind of like, I don't know. It's like I feel like it's like the Beatles. Where like George was always kind of like, oh, all right, this is what we're gonna do. I'll just be in the background and do it. I mean, do you feel like that's how the having really artistic lead, what it feels like to be like for the rest of the band?
What I've heard from interviews and whatever is like the music was because there was like rife with tension, but I think it was like Billy Corgan cannot be an easy person to have to deal with.
No, he wrote a whole song about how he's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
On this album. Yeah.
So I don't think they were like hired hands, but I think they kind of just went along with this stuff. Yeah, it feels like it's more like the business side is where the problems are for this band.
Which happens to a lot of bands.
Yeah.
So I get, all right.
Well, in the business of show, which the Smashing Pumpkins are in, they had this amazing video Tonight that had this incredible look that threw back to the Trip to the Moon, early French film. That also even though it wasn't exactly like the album art, it kind of like makes me think of the album art.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of like has like blimps or airships and things like that. The other video that stands out is the third track, Zero.
I love this song. I love this song so much. It's not even funny. It was one of the songs, like I remember when Nirvana came out, and like I was a lot younger and I hadn't reached the full angstiness yet, where this album came out, and particularly this song, where I was like, wow, he's fucking angry. And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of fucking angry too. So like I kind of connected with it. It was definitely when Bullet came out, I was like, this is exactly how I feel. But Zero, I think it's the better song of the two between that and Bullet. I think just musically, like he even has where he's talking a lot about he's looking at a reflection of himself. So whatever he's talking to, there's another character there he's talking to, which is obviously it's a reflection in a dirty mirror. So he's really seeing himself in someone else, which is kind of how I made this weird connection where I'm like, I feel like I am looking at a reflection of myself, that kind of anger and hostility of being, being a teenager.
I think between this and Bullet, like Bullet sound, because it was the lead single, it was chosen by the record company. It sounds more like a generic rock song. Like it's more of a generic. Zero sounds fucking crazy. And yeah, like the duality of it, like when his screams and then his like wispy, little thin vocal that he does, that just as a side note, it's so, he has such a singular voice, and like that, whether you like it or not, like that's something interesting, to have established yourself as like, I know when I'm hearing a Smashing Pumpkins song, because I know that voice. There's no one else who can do that voice.
Do you
The
think
other
with his?
thing,
Oh, sorry.
the other thing I was gonna say about Zero, the riff is so good, but the song is really just the riff. The riff, it kicks it off. It's all throughout. Like the guitar part is very simple. He just nails an awesome riff, lets it go, lets Jimmy Chamberlain just kill his drum set. And that solo, the solo in Zero, might be my favorite guitar solo ever. It is so different from anything I've ever heard.
Well, as a single, it's not. It doesn't feel like a single, which is really weird. I love my favorite part is the emptiness is loneliness whole section where it's like bum 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 bum, and like that was like such a different sound to hear as particularly as a single. But in a song construction, it was like this stop start thing. I thought was very novel, very different for the time.
Yeah, and the solo, I made a note that it sounds menacing. Like I remember hearing it, and it still gives me like a little bit of a chill. Like it sounds troubling. Like
which speaks to the unhealthy relationship that Billy's talking about. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
Oh, a couple things. This song always stuck out to me because really at this time I was really like into just punk, but this song has that energy and that even though it's not a punk song, it like I could put this on a mix with other punk songs, and I think that's part of why I always love this song. Like one of my favorite lyrics is "Intoxicated with the madness, I'm in love with my sadness. Should have been an away message if I didn't use it. I would like to bring AOL Messenger back today so I could use that as my away message today." I don't know if I can do that. Someone look into that. Phil, can you look into AOL and see what's going on with them?
I will take a look for it. I'm gonna have to get the dial-up going though to get back to it. So let me see what happens.
But something, Joe, you said earlier about his Billy's voice. When listening to this album, I was thinking a lot of how he uses his voice as like another guitar. Does that make sense? Like it's almost like the way his voice sounds, it almost sounds like a guitar.
I think, yeah, I mentioned, I think it's more prevalent on Siamese Dream, but the way that the album is mixed, his vocals sit in with the guitar. And so like, it's giving equal weight, oftentimes like vocals will be very out in front. But yeah, he like his voice is intentionally in there like it is an instrument.
Well, and even the way he uses it there's such fluctuation in, because he sings very high sometimes. He's also down low, then he's screaming, then he's like whispering down a little bit. Like so, it's just how he uses it. Reminds it's like Tom York talked about that in Radiohead of using your voice as an instrument, and I think Billy is one of the few out of that '90s scene who tried to do something with his and make it an instrument. Because you're right, I feel like his vocals in the guitar work are like the vocals are just a hair above the dub, and like you can almost, some songs you almost can't even hear him, or some songs they dial it back so much because he's screaming, but it sounds like he's screaming like into a can like this, and they make it quieter than the guitar work, which is just an interesting way of just editing and compiling a song. I feel like this would be a really great Alkaline Trio song, by the way. I feel like this would be a hell of a cover for them if they did this.
Yeah. Do you want to write a letter to Matt, Dan, and Derek? And
I will do that. I'll send it via AOL.
Okay, yeah. Just two birds, one stone.
Yeah, there you go.
A funny thing too about this record and the production of it. So Gish and Siamese Dream are both produced by Butch Vig, who also did famously Nevermind. And Billy, in one of his many self-indulgent, self-aggrandizing statements, said that the first time he ever heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. He was with Butch Vig. I guess Butch Vig was playing him rough cuts. And Billy said, well, you nailed my guitar tone. Which I don't fully see. Like I see Smashing Pumpkins guitar tone, especially on Siamese Dream, as being very singular. It's very distinct. So I don't necessarily agree that Nevermind has that. I mean, I guess that would be Gish era. But anyway, so the first two records they do with Butch Vig, and this is done by Flood, who did a bunch of early Nine Inch Nails stuff. He's done a ton of stuff. I think he worked with U2. But he had just come off of doing some stuff with Downward Spiral. I don't know if he did the whole thing or if he engineered it or what, but there's that. And then the engineer for this record is Alan. I'm spacing on his name, but anyway, he did a lot of like early shoegaze. He did like Jesus and Mary Chain stuff and My Bloody Valentine. And so, you know, you just have these like interesting 90s influences, like unique sounds coming together. And this album just sounds so big. It's just, you know, it's a double album, but it just sounds huge.
It's a wall of sound kind of album. It really is.
Yeah, and like the drums, like, you know, they recorded the drums, I think, in this open warehouse. So some of the actual cut, you know, drum tracks that made it to the record are just Jimmy Chamberlin in this huge empty warehouse.
You can definitely hear that. Yeah.
That reminds me of Led Zeppelin 4, or Bottoms and what was it, When the Levee Breaks. They recorded that. Bottom was in a open an empty pool. So all those reverberations and all that you hear and the echo and all that, that's all straight out of all because of the pool. And now that you said that about the warehouse, I'm like, now I can hear. It's kind of this, now that makes sense why that would sound that way.
Yeah,
I love producing. When you learning about how things are produced, music is produced. It always astonishes me.
Yeah, because you think it's just like, oh, he's an amazing songwriter, and it's like, no, like look at all that goes into it.
What was one of the songs? I forget which one. Billy talked about that he couldn't recreate. He did it on a demo and he couldn't recreate the sound, so he used the sound they use on the demo because he couldn't get it back. And I forget. Now I'm trying to remember what song that was.
Interesting.
Oh, it's on the second album or second side. I'm gonna get to it. It'll pop up for me eventually.
Well, in the meantime, we can talk about Heroes Know Why.
Here's the why. Let's slow it down for a hot second, and like let's take our time again. Again, this is where that duality comes in. It's like heavy banger. You know, wait. Let's just hang out a minute, guys. What do you thematically, if we're knowing that this is supposed to be like throughout, we're going dusk till dawn at this point. Do you feel like when he does this, like banger, loud, slow it down? Is it like knowing Billy? Is this a theme on how a night goes, like how your day goes, that you have ups and downs, you've got quick, fast, slow? Do you think it's that intentional?
Maybe. I mean, it's also like a meta play on the Pixie sound, the Nirvana sound of like, you know, those soft, loud juxtapositions. He's doing that not only within songs, but track to track, kind of padding it a little like that.
I was wondering. I had a thought, because it's funny you bring that, because this is such a shot at himself. If I remember reading it right, it was the endless drags of a death rock boy taking a shot of himself. It's funny. I think it's a song. It's the first time you kind of get an idea of him looking back on life and like having gotten a little older. And maybe, you know, the king. I like King of Gloom. I've always thought that was kind of a funny line.
I like King of Gloom too. There's so many things throughout the album, like little where, you know, we kicked off talking about like, is this an emo record? Again, like the aesthetic. It's like Smashing Pumpkins. Like you can't get away from the aesthetic. It's released in October. Like it's just got, you know, they always have like a little spooky vibe, even though they're not like spooky or menacing at all, other than that Zero solo. Um,
But like you said, I think without this album, you certainly, I don't really think have AFI, and you don't have MCR. I guess I'm just talking in acronyms now. So
well, you don't have
SP made way for AFI or MCR.
NCIS definitely.
It's just that gloom. I think that's the king of gloom. I feel like now I'm like, he is just kind of a gloomy guy, isn't he? Just the characters who come out through all these stories in this thing. There's like a gloomy glum to it.
Well, also with the gloominess and the slowing down to a slower song. I mean, going back to if this is an album about being a teenager,
Right.
you know, the ups and downs, and when you're down, you know, you haven't experienced life yet. Your low points are the lowest possible, right?
Yeah.
And
right, 100%. Yeah, right.
But also, like, I think he kind of gives the game away a little bit. It sounds like teenage Charlie Brown, and like, and like he is a bit that, like, he is that kind of a downer. There's a good story. I heard it on another podcast, but where there's like someone interviewing, or I forget, it's Kim Thale and some other musician are at this bar, and Billy Corgan walks over and he's drinking a strawberry margarita. And I feel like that's so
That
like,
seems
could you pick a less cool fucking drink for like a huge rock star to be? A strawberry margarita.
He's gonna drink it through a straw too, because
definitely
you look real tough whenever you drink through a straw.
I feel like that's him.
But yet I feel like a strawberry margarita. That seems like what he would do. Yeah. That checks out. I think that checks. Not a lot. Now I'm just imagining him just walking through a bar holding a strawberry margarita.
You can see it. I feel like Here Is No Why is a good song. It's nice pacing after Zero. It definitely has a little Siamese Dream feel to it, but it also feels like the first song that was not written to be a single.
Right.
Yeah. I think a little bit of a thesis of the album too, a little bit at times, because there's ode to wallowing that it comes across as, and which I think shows its head often throughout the album.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's the line of the lonely tower, or towers of long mistakes, and like how the past shape. But like that's him looking like it's him realizing maybe he's done some of this stuff to himself because of past mistakes. Now he's so lonely, I mean, and so glum, and he's building up the animosity, which is released in the next song.
Right. And it's like I think Here Is No Why was one of the first songs that either was written or recorded for this album. I'm not 100% on that, but it really feels like a catharsis for him coming off of the recording process of Siamese Dream was like brutal. And it's still unclear whether or not he recorded all of, everything but the drums by himself.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's it. Yeah. I got it. He's got it. I got it. I can handle the rest of it. Go. You guys take 5 minutes. Take a break.
Yeah. He was so like fixated on like, this is my shot. And he nailed it, but I think that process was very taxing on everybody. So yeah, this song seems like very cathartic for him.
This is a more present day thing, but I saw a trailer for a movie called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, the ship from Dracula, basically the boat that brings Dracula over. So it's a contained horror movie on this ship, and it's about Dracula being transported. But the trailer, why I'm talking about this, it takes Bullet with Butterfly Wings and just slows it down to the world is a vampire. And then like, you have to watch the trailer. This is terrible because I'm not giving you an example of it, but everyone go watch that trailer after this podcast, because I just kind of was like, this song has been around for so long, and like to take it and slow it down to put it across this like period piece on a ship vampire horror movie, I was like, this is chef's kiss.
Is it a cover or is it slowing down the actual song?
No, it's Billy Corgan's vocals. It's just Anyway,
there's a vampire. Now I can just hear a slow down Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Really taking the metaphor out and actually just being like, the world is a vampire and this boat has Dracula on it and you're all going to die. Which brings us to the next song.
Which Butterfly Wings, right?
Yeah.
First single, lead single. I mean, you want angst. Here we go. Let's get right on the nose. I mean, the opening with him in the world is a vampire, and then Set the Dream. But what I love about the world is a vampire, he very clearly is telling about everybody out there is wanting something from him.
Yeah,
Like
right.
they're like they want blood, they're an emotional vampire, they're I don't know, physical vampire, they can be whatever. But everybody's asking something of him, and he's giving them everything he's got. Right, what I love about it. But despite that, he's still just this dude stuck in a cage, right? He's still just a rat in a cage. Despite all of his best effort at, I don't know, yelling at the world, he's still just a rat in a cage. And that's what I love about this is the first time I heard the scream, like when he screams in the second half of the song, it's like that is the release. Like that anger has come full out. Maybe you see a little bit in the last song, but it really kind of shines through in this one.
It's funny. I love when bands, especially like really successful bands, write songs that are metaphors for their experience in the record industry, and then they become like massive hit songs, and it's just like this self-perpetuating thing where it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's so hallmark of the 90s too. It's like people being marketed to, people who don't want to be marketed to being marketed to perfectly. Like Jeff, you and I have talked about,
yeah, that's interesting.
Nirvana, how like Nirvana was marketed to us, and if it wasn't Nirvana, it would have been something else. But it's like the Nirvana, yeah, like Nirvana is special to us because of the time the age we were when it came out,
right?
But if it wasn't Nirvana, it would have been something else.
Well, there's a motion picture from 2001, and I've mentioned it before on this podcast. It's called Josie and the Pussycats, and the opening really tells you how it works. If this band isn't working out, get rid of them, and then bring in the next band.
It's funny, Joe, that you said that, because it's like it's a song about hating the record industry. But what is funny is the name of the song. Like, what good is a bullet with butterfly wings? Like, it's gonna do nothing. Right? Zero damage. And I mean, that's why it's such a funny, clever name for a song. They kind of sum up how you feel. It's like you're fighting something you can't win, which I feel is a very 90s thing to do. Just in a general sense of the decade. We're always fighting something. But then we're like, yeah, whatever, never mind.
Or, yeah, I see that, but I also see, like album charts, they're always like, with a bullet. And so it's like,
okay. Oh, nice. I didn't see that. That's awesome.
I've written this song that I know is going to be a single, but it's kind of toothless, because I'm expressing my rage, but I'm still in a cage because this is going to propel me to even greater stardom than I already had, and just entrench me even more in this industry.
That's interesting to have that, because now I was just thinking about, because it's the hardship of it. He even mentions Job, which I think is an interesting topic on the hardship of, how far can you push somebody and make them still love a thing, because Job gets pushed all the way and he still has his beliefs in everything. And so it's just they take everything from Job, and Job's like, nah, it's cool, I still believe, it's fine. And I think that's he's bringing that element in where it's hard. Being a rock star is hard. I mean, it doesn't sound hard, but apparently it's hard. I mean, I don't know. I might try it for like a week and then say it's hard, but what do I know? But he's saying that, despite all the hardship, he feels like I don't know, maybe not, still hasn't gotten there, but I love that interpretation with because I know that the DJs would say this one, number one with a bullet, and then you got this very clearly made to be a single that's going to hook everybody in.
Right.
And it worked.
Does this song fit in with the theme and narrative of the album, now that we're talking about it being about the band's experience? Or do you think it's an outlier that kind of has some themes that cross over on a superficial level?
maybe the superficial level, because this is an angsty song. This is a song about anger. This is a song about frustration, and what kid who's 15 or 16 can't relate to that? I mean, it's not as much as an outlier as I think like When September Ends on Green Day's American Idiot. That I feel like is an outlier, but this one, I don't think so. I think it's a looser connection to the grander scheme, but I think it's something teenagers would feel.
I think it's got layers. I think it can be both.
Yeah.
It can be both like written as him express, like a metaphor for him expressing his anxieties and frustrations. But then, if you take it literally, it's aimed directly at teenagers.
Well, I think I can forgive him for, making a song that works on so many levels.
A transition pro.
Yeah,
he is. Jeff is astonishingly good at the transitions. But can I throw an audible here? Can we talk about To Forgive and Fuck You and All the No One together?
Yeah,
of course.
As a 1-2. And the reason why I say that is because I think this is an album of duality, and I think these two songs work really well against each other.
yes.
Let's look at the title alone, like To Forgive, right? And then Fuck You, it's no one and no one. It's just, so it's very opposite each other. Because like with To Forgive, it's about how the past affects us, right? Growing up, things we've gone through affect us, and maybe it's okay to forgive. Possibly. What do you think, Joe?
But I feel like he's not really he's a guy who holds a grudge,
It's tongue in cheek to forgive, right? Yeah, because it's all his experiences. I mean, I've had it where no one shows your birthday party, man. That will fuck you up as a kid. I totally understand that. But I don't know, do you think he's talking about but he's happy maybe in a weird way that he had that experience, because that experience let him be able to write songs?
Maybe. I don't think this is a bad song. This is the first song on the album, and maybe the only song on the album, because I think this is like all killer, no filler, this record. But this is the one song that I don't love. It's the one song that I sometimes will skip. I feel like it fits the flow, it fits the theme. It's really good coming off of Bullet. Really, really bolsters the nostalgic feel of it. But there's something about it where the whole album feels like you're a teenager. This guy is a superstar. He gets you, you get him. He's coming right at you. And it's almost like a little too human. It's almost so, it's ubiquitous. Like, the no one coming to your birthday party thing, like that cuts you. You get what that feels like, but it's almost like an overshare to me. It's almost like, he's been reduced a little bit. He's been diminished a little bit, because you're like, this guy's a superstar.
And he pretend he doesn't care. Like he even somewhere in there, he said that he's literally acknowledging he's a fool holding it back in.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's great to have the next song after it, because he is now unleashed.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Jeff?
Oh, it's just whenever I heard this song, and even now, the thought maybe this is what it's about. I don't know. It sounded like to me, in the context of the album, and not necessarily like a personal song, but it sounds like a character who, to me, I was thinking had a parent who wasn't there in their childhood, and the parent who was not around, and it's like this is the moment of having to learn how to forgive that parent.
Well, he apparently had a shit childhood, just an awful childhood.
I got to play this with Everclear's Father of Mine, it's in a rock block.
But I think the thing about this song is it just doesn't, he's so good at melody. To me, there's no hook. The chorus is, I guess, a little catchy, but I don't know. It just doesn't hit for me like the rest of the album. But I still think it fits. I don't think it's I wouldn't scrap it, because I think it feeds the whole, but it's the only one that just doesn't really do it for me.
I think it's the one that gives you the backstory of the general character through who's kind of telling all these stories of this is the kind of the shitty upbringing they've had, And like I said, it explodes in the next one because fuck you, it's an ode to no one, by the way. Which I'm gonna go back to like the Incredibles, where if everybody's super, then no one is. I think it's the same concept, but just in reverse. So it's an ode to no one, but it's an ode to everyone who's ever made me mad about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
No one.
and this song is fantastic. This song is fantastic. It's the loudest song. It is the I read somewhere that the way he did the solo in it was that he was like an inch away from the amp, so that if basically he stopped playing, the feedback would overtake him and like deafen him. Which is just a crazy guitar work in this song.
Amazing solo, so good. I love the whole the crescendo of the song, the juxtaposition of the wispy vocal and the kind of vocal fry thing that he does. And the lyrics on this are bananas, if I may. Vaseline afterbirths, neon coughs, galaxies full of nobodies giving us the farewell runarounds. I took a Virgin Mary axe to his sweet baby Jane, lost my innocence to a no-good girl, scratch my face with anvil hands, coil my tongue around a bumblebee mouth, and I give it all back to you.
Every ounce of it right back to you.
Just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What's a bumblebee mouth, Joe?
But looking at that section, I'm like, these are like examples of like people. So like, I think each line is a person to him, right? And that's who this song is dedicated to. That's the no one in this song. It's just that all you people who made me really mad at some point did something to me. I am giving, because he talks about he's disconnecting. I am disconnecting from everybody. I'm going to give all this back to you, and it's going to be loud, and because and you're going to feel the pain that I have felt, because like even his guitar work, I feel like his guitar is in pain.
Yeah,
like everything is in pain in this song.
I feel like this is almost him aping Kurt Cobain lyrics. Like this sounds a little bit like In Utero lyrics to me. And lest we forget the Courtney Love connection.
Right.
So, what is that connection? We're now a gossip podcast.
Gossip podcast. Here we go.
6. She allegedly, the night that she met Kurt Cobain at that Butthole Surfers show, she had been staying with Billy Corgan and like hooking up with Billy Corgan. And
she takes credit for some of the songs, that saying that there were songs about her, that Billy wrote them about her. Yeah.
There's such a great back and forth between them. She said like Billy Corgan hasn't had a hit since he stopped writing songs about me, and Billy Corgan's quip back was, Courtney Love hasn't had a hit since I stopped writing them for her. Because he co-wrote a bunch of stuff on Celebrity Skin.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe that's why that album is pretty decent. Yeah, right. Yeah, I tell you, what was the one? It's the song that when he says disconnect midway through and then it thrashes from there. I mean, the song, Fuck You and Ode to No One is, you know what, Jeff? Can we play Fuck You and Ode to No One?
I was hoping you would say so, Phil, because I got it all queued up right here. Yeah, that song just fucking rocks.
There's nothing bad about that song. Nothing. Title's one of my favorites. Bumblebee Tuna.
Bumblebee Tuna?
Well, it goes with the bumblebee mouth. Yeah.
Bumblebee mouth. We all love a bumblebee mouth.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, how could you not? It's just, man, what are you talking about?
Well, I love it. The randomness that is. So let's talk about Love.
Yeah.
It got a funky ass bass line, I'll tell you that.
It does. I like the intro. I like the build up. I like that there's a little kind of that 90s kind of like megaphone effect on his voice a little bit.
It's like it's an industrial song. I mean, or a precursor to like that really big industrial sound. I don't know.
It kind of like drags. It's still got that kind of Siamese Dream mixing. The vocals are in there with the guitars a bit. Not a whole lot to say. Love the lyric. Love, it's who you know. Love solves everything.
I mean, it's all who you know.
It's all who you know. But that,
Well,
eighth grade me is loving love.
well, I get it. I get that. And eighth grade you knows if love is who you know, the person you really need to know about love is a little cherub named Cupid.
All right. So this one, I love this song.
What's it called?
Cupid de Lock. Very different song, changes the flow, changes the pacing of the first side of the album. I think this is the one that has like all the crazy, like they're cutting paper and that's used as percussion, and
Yep.
got this interesting little synthy string line going. It's a big palette cleanse, not in a bad way, not like it just like breaks up the sound, breaks up the flow of the record. And I think it resets for the rest of this side. It's just very dreamy. And my big note on this that stuck with me, that I was just living for as a 13-year-old, is the part where the main vocal kind of drops out and Billy's doing this voiceover. And if I may, in the land of star-crossed lovers and barren-hearted wanderers, forever lost and forsaken missives and Satan's pull, we seek the unseekable and we speak the unspeakable, our hopes dead, gathering dust to dust, in faith, in compassion, and in love.
I mean,
Melodrama.
well, and I think that's it.
So-
I wish I had paid attention to this when I was 13, because now I'm like, I can't hear that without laughing. That whole spoken word part.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so over the top.
I love
But yeah, teenager me, I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Thank you so much. It's kind of like the spoken word thing. It's just this like so melodramatic, which I think is just a theme, honestly. But like Jeff said, like teenagers are melodramatic, right? We all were, right? Your low is like this ridiculous low thing because you don't know what low is yet, and you'll find out. Don't worry.
the value
Oh.
of everything is so sensationalized, like things that
Yes.
are happening in your life. In retrospect, it's like, oh, I had a shitty 6 months. It's like, that's a blink of an eye. But at the time, it's so precious to you. I think this song too is the first time, where you got all the angsty songs. You got Rat in a Cage and Zero. You got all that, and you're connecting. This is the first time where it's like a softer side that I'm really like connecting with.
Interesting.
I don't know. I just think he read Shakespeare for the first time and was like, I should use some of this.
He
says doth.
He does.
Yeah.
There is it's a very big, over the top, melodramatic kind of song. I mean, he's kind of making this weird love triangle between Cupid, a narrator, and death. I mean, it's like this, so it's so, I don't know. It is so like a 15-year-old boy wrote this, and he's like, oh, when they read this, they're gonna see all my deepest inner anger and tension come out, and it'd be fantastic, and everybody will feel how I feel.
But guys, like, could you imagine? I think he was what, like 28 when he made this record. The confidence and vulnerability, like to put this out into the world in earnest, is just like, holy fucking shit, man. Like, this is going to be a huge record, and like, that is very campy.
It's either extremely but it's extremely calculated, right? I mean, it's on there for a reason, and I think that makes sense to what Billy. But I think Billy's also very art rock, and he's like, nah, they're gonna love it. Like, this is gonna be amazing. Everyone's gonna love it.
Right, because he's already told us to crucify the insincere tonight before we even get into this. So you can't doth protest.
You cannot doth protest. I always kind of view, going back, Phil, to what you said, like, I think Cupid and Galapagos go kind of hand in hand.
They do. They really do. You're right.
Run into each other. Galapagos is so pretty. My note here is a grower, not a shower.
It's just, I don't know. It's the this is the one where I'm like, all right, the metaphor of, where you go back to the reference point of the Galapagos Islands, and they're kind of making the metaphor of that between his marriage. I don't know. Do you think it holds? How much do you think it holds? How about that? That metaphor.
I mean, I guess it holds for me. Like this song for me is all sonic. It's the sound of it. And the part, I can't remember what part of the song when he sings "Here with You." The way he sings it and I love it. Or I don't know how well the metaphors hold up.
Well, yeah, because like my big note was like, can someone explain the title to me? Because then my mind started going like Galapagos, and to me, it's a song. It's really a song about your insecurity in a relationship, and you're really needing the partner to tell you you're fine, you're great. So now I'm just picturing two like 200-year-old tortoises, giant tortoises. This is what this song's about, and that's kind of where it sits with me. There's a really insecure tortoise in this relationship.
Yeah. And he looks like a grown-up Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Grown-up Charlie Brown. Sometimes I need a muzzle just to stop talking about this song. So let's talk about Muzzle, which is a fantastic song.
Yeah, this might be my favorite song on the album. Kind of the opposite of Galapagos. It's like, to me, it's not the most interesting song, but it is like, it's got it all. Like the lyrics are so, it's an anthem. It's aimed straight at teenage experience. And this really, I don't know if you guys have heard the quote. I think it's Billy Corgan saying this about himself, that this record is him like taking his youth, putting it in a box, tying a bow around it, and putting it under the bed. And I think Muzzle is like encapsulates that. And it's similar also like to it kind of echoes Mayonnaise from Siamese Dream to me.
What I like about it's I remember reading that it's what we danced around it a couple of times, that Billy likes to just say things, and sometimes that gets him in trouble, and sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times it does. And I think this is that song where he's very aware of it. This is what it is, like he needs a muzzle sometimes. But it's the it's an interesting, but I think that's kind of tongue in cheek, because a lot of the lyrics talk about knowing where you're supposed to be in the world, like your place in the world. And I think he thinks that is his place in the world, is to be that really vocal. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. You're going to, tough nuckies. If you don't like it, I'm still going to say it. Sure, people might think I need a muzzle, but I'm just going to say what I want. And that's what I like about this song. This was the first song, not a single, that I actually really, really, really identified with. I like this song a lot.
Now, I'm surprised this wasn't a single.
Yeah, it feels like it should be.
It should have been. I feel like, because even the way it opens, it's the intro, just him and the guitar for a second, and then the whole band comes in. I've always felt this is actually a single that never happened.
Yeah, like I feel like this should have been. I actually, now come to think of it, I think this might have been released as a radio single, like a radio single, but not a released single.
Because I do feel like I remember it being played on the radio, and I think it was like it's like kind of like She with Green Day. It's like an unofficial single.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Now that I'm thinking about it, that's why I do think that actually happened. But
and at the beginning, like you're talking about the intro to the song, when Jimmy comes in with that drum fill,
right? I think it's a real. It is a single. I think it's a really excellent song to introduce them. Like if you want to be like, here's a great way to start learning a little bit more about Smashing Pumpkins. I think this is a great song to do it. It is funny though. It's just his tongue in cheekiness comes out of it because he's like, I know my place. My place is to be here and to be this vocal guy that nobody sometimes like. And I know, sure, I might need a muzzle, but he also talks about being kind of. Do you think, okay, so when he talks about his life being extraordinary and that he's blessed to have it, do you think he's being cheeky? Or do you think he's being sincere?
I think he's being sincere.
Me too.
Because then he goes on to say like blessed and cursed, and I can't remember that. I think it is an acknowledgement, but I think you're totally right. He is saying like, I deserve this. I can handle this, and I should be here, and I deserve this.
Kind of connects back to the hardship in about in Bullet with the animosity with Job and all that. It's funny, it's like, yeah, Jeff.
No, it was like the opening line. I think is like, I fear I'm ordinary, where he's like, he's coming out and being like, oh no, what if I'm just like everyone else? And then by the end of the song, he's like, no, I know who I am and what I deserve to be, and as we're all saying. So I think it's the journey of the song for him.
And again, like the whole album speaks to teenagers. It's like that feeling of like being understood and being able to write something that's so big, but then just it's almost like Morrissey. It's like the intimacy, like you capture something that is almost a ubiquitous feeling. But then he's like, no, I am unique, and I am, extraordinary, because I'm conveying this to you, and like this is shared experience, but I have hit the nail on the head.
Feelings are a vast ocean.
This one
on a raging sea.
And so it only makes sense when you go to poor Selena of the vast oceans.
Of the vast oceans. This is such a dreamy. First up, I don't like 9-minute songs. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm not. I as Jeff knows, I'm not a jam band kind of guy. I don't like jam bands. No jam. This is very much. I don't think this needed to be a 9.5 minutes, or even long. It's almost 10, isn't it? Anyway, I don't. It's like 10, right? Yeah, I don't think it needed to be 10 minutes, but it is such. It's a dreamy song though.
The intro is 2 minutes 15 seconds.
See, just why do we do? It's like Death Cab and I Will Possess Your Heart, where it's like 10 minutes of the same rhythm, and then we finally get into the song. With this, like, why do we need those 2 minutes? Can we just cover it down to 7 minutes?
Bill, it's about vibes. It's about vibes. Do you not like vibes?
Put it out. Maybe he's trying to run out the side of a record. Who knows?
Who knows?
I like it. I like the juxtaposition. I also am like here for a 10-minute song. I'm not into jam bands, but if I like something, I want it to be long. Like I would always be bummed listening to like the Ramones. I'd be like, oh man, that little melody is so good, but then the song's like 1 minute and 10 seconds, and you're like, draw it out. Like I really like that. I like a long song.
Well, yeah, I love putting on Ramones records, and I'm done in 20 minutes. I mean, yeah, and that's a full set too. That's like 25 songs. I mean, that's.
I was once driving home from driving across Los Angeles, and I listened to 4 Ramones albums while sitting in traffic.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, so that was not much traffic that day.
It was light traffic that day, as opposed to being up here in the back roads in New Hampshire, where like there's no traffic anywhere, except in the summertime on 93 North. There's some traffic, and it's no fun. I'll tell you that right now. Going back to the song, because you know how I love to diverge about New Hampshire. This song uses Dilly Dally. Can we just enjoy that for 1 second? The fact that he got Dilly Dally into a song, that's astonishing.
In a 10-minute song.
In a 10-minute song, he took 1 moment to talk about Dilly Dally.
And it's like, does he know?
Does he use Dilly Dally on a daily basis? Like,
well, of course, I bet you he uses "He Doth Protest" too in conversation. So we're bringing in Cupid into this as well. I do think he would use Dilly Dally, but it would be more Charlie Brown sounding.
Do you think he's saying it when he's ordering a strawberry margarita at the bar?
Is he telling the bar back, "Don't dilly dally"? I would like my strawberry margarita.
I doth protest.
I need my strawberry margarita because these seashells are hissing lullabies at me.
It's great.
Oh man, it's just hilarious. Well,
It's
we're
so
getting
over the top, but it's so big. Like it is, like there is a bigness when it does kick in.
yes when it gets in because it's like it's the what else can I use? A siren. Okay, a real siren. Like it's something calling you out to the ocean, right? And I think that's it's the chance that maybe something better. Maybe I don't know. It's just there's something that draws him. What is it about Porcelain, you think, that's drawing the narrator to her? I don't know what to call them. How about that?
No clue.
Yeah, me neither. It's very dreamy. It's dreamy.
Yeah. It's dreamy, and it's just, what's interesting too about some of his song titles, it kind of serves as a precursor to like the early 2000s emo, like long, so like insane song titles that
Like
are
what's the
just, like,
what's the Save the Day song, Jeff? The Vast Spoils of America, something like that.
Oh yeah.
That just popped in my head for this song. Yeah.
yeah,
I
they're
don't- Do you think it's a good place he's going to with Porcelina?
I think he thinks so.
It seems very drug induced, like very like druggy.
My stream of consciousness notes on this one was like, this is a person who's is the hero of their own story, and they're on their hero's journey, and they're heading into the ocean with Porcelina, and they think it's a good idea. So as far as the narrator is concerned, it seems like a good idea.
well, then it kind of dovetails with the next song a little bit.
Yeah.
Take Me
Another
Down.
really dreamy song.
So dreamy. This one, starts off with "Take Me Down to the Underground." Love it. And this is one of the only songs that James Iha sings on this album. Has a bit of a like. Do you know the band Mojave 3?
Mm-mm.
Mojave 3 was a band that one of the guys from Slowdive started after Slowdive, and it's just got this like a little bit twangy, just very soft, very like delicate, kind of precious. And what, spoiler alert, one of the things I love about this record is both sides of it end with someone other than Billy singing. I think that's very cool. There is a little bit of a, it never gets loud or angsty, but there's a little bit of a melodic build to it. The bridge and the chorus are really good. And I just, again, like I just love the pacing of the album and each disc within the album.
It threw me off when all of a sudden it's not Billy Corgan singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm debating how purposeful that was. Like, is it meant to throw you off a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, in the journey, if the narrator has gone on to this new place, right? Take Me Down. You enter a song that doesn't sound like a Smashing Pumpkins song to me, which is in a good way, like not like a bad thing. Like it definitely doesn't sound like anything you normally get from them.
No, they're trying this whole album's about trying stuff, right? You have
Yeah.
like an industrial song, then you get this one, which is it's just very it's not it's gonna sound bad if I say it's very one note, but it's very dreamy, wistful kind of ending to a side of the album.
And there's no dynamics to it, really.
Yeah. It's straightforward. I mean, it is, but there's like this you use the word delicate. That's a really good that is how this song sounds. It sounds delicate. Like if we were to talk more about it, it would just like crumble away.
Yeah.
Bill, are you afraid to tread here on this song?
Possibly.
Here we go. Twilight and Starlight.
You want to we'll get in the second half of the album, because this is definitely where I want to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where the boys are,
This is where this is where they fear to trend. I think this is probably one of my favorite titles of a song on this album.
Yes.
And this is such a good opener. What I love, it's like what I love. I get so excited to think about this song. I can't get my words right.
Yeah.
What I love most about this as an opener is like it literally sounds like the band was like, we took a break, we need a few seconds to kind of warm back up and kind of, they started off like the chug jug in the front and then like the band slowly kind of gets together again. And I love how that is the opener of this one. And they go right into a great song.
The riff too is kind of plays on Zero a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know who wrote, and what order they were written, but it's a similar little riff to Zero.
It's almost like a metal riff. That's how I kind of took it. It's an awesome riff.
It's a heavy song. It is tonally, it's a heavy song.
But yeah, like musically it is, but the vocals are kind of like a little, I guess there's some variation there, but like they seem a little thin. I love this song. I love, this was always like such a great kickoff to this side, because this is like, there's still variation on this side, there's ups and downs, but this is definitely like the heavier side.
Yeah.
And man, just, if it's like, if I'm in college and I'm in bands, it's like, this is what I wanted to look like the Velvet Underground and sound like this song. I want a black turtleneck. I want to be wearing sunglasses all the time. And I want to sound like this song.
This is one of the songs that Courtney Love said was about her, and actually about her and Trent Reznor specifically.
Oh, no wonder I love this song.
Yeah.
Huh.
The one thing, so let me talk about the top. So it's where boys fear to tread. So that would imply only men can tread here, right? Because boys are afraid to go here. Maybe men can. But the only time they reference the word tread is referencing to lightning. Why would boys be afraid to tread lightning? I have no idea. This is one of those like weird lyrics that are just like, this is up for interpretation. So I'm gonna throw it out there. Why lightning?
I mean, maybe it's to do with like lightning striking twice, and
It's so fast, maybe something like to try something that could hurt you. I don't know.
Maybe it's like the maturity that I don't know. I'm getting a little abstract here, but it's like where boys fear to tread. So you have a 28-year-old writing a double album that sounds like the ramblings of a 13-year-old me, and it sells 10 million records, coming off the heels of the best-selling independent release and then a 4 million seller. So maybe it's boys fear to tread in this territory, but now I'm a man and I can unleash this on the world. I can unleash whatever the voiceover in or the spoken word part in Cupid.
Oh
well, yeah. Well, yeah, get on the bomb, right? That's kind of like the message at the end, right? Like he's like, so get on the bomb, like you have nothing to fear, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe that's why that's where it's coming from. It's more about don't be afraid. Head on. Maybe it's kind of is it a callback to Tonight, but
Maybe.
like the heavier version?
That's cool.
Maybe.
I actually think we should listen to this one because in the year of our Lord and Savior Taylor Swift 2023, you listen to this on Spotify, you don't get the album break. It's just 28 straight through. So I think it's fun to kind of like cleanse the palate and actually listen to this as if it was the first on the next side.
Yeah.
So this is where boys fear to tread.
Don't be afraid to tread. Don't be afraid to tread.
We're not afraid to tread. We are in the second half of this album, and we are well into it now. And it's time for Bodies.
Amazing
Song. Song.
The intro, the way it starts out, that sound where it just sounds like needles.
It's just again lyrically, it's a 15-year-old kid wrote it. Love is suicide. It's just man, what a good song this is.
Well, you repeat that, and it's so evocative. Like love is suicide. Like it's just, isn't that what it feels like when you're in young love or any love at any age, and you're just like, it's a bad love, and like it's gonna kill you. You're killing yourself by even indulging in this love, and like
yeah.
Could it be like you're in love with the wrong person, but you can't help it? All those kind of things.
And it's like, it's interesting too, because you have love solves everything, and then you have love is suicide,
Right. It's duality again. Like
Yeah.
it's funny to take a look at this album. Often you have to look at it in connection to other things.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Oftentimes, this album has dualistic things going on. One song works against another, and you saw exactly what we said. Love is great in one song, but love is terrible in another. That's such a statement on love, then, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like that complexity that you feel as a teenager, but also the complexity that you feel then as a 28-year-old reflecting on how you felt as a teenager, or this kind of adolescent poetry kind of thing. This is one of my favorites. The part in the middle where everything drops out and they're just chanting, for lack of a better word. Oh, I love it.
I love later in the song about the blisters, and it's kind of I hate blisters as a thing. I think they're kind of gross, but I like how it's all the stuff we hide, like that kind of, but it's like kind of bubbling under the surface that wouldn't take much to like explode and like reveal. I think that is such an, because he even says that my blisters now revealed in the darkest of my dreams, and the spaces in between us, but nobody's ever knew. Like, so it's like he's released, so he's got the scars, right? Again, where I think maybe scar we better term, but he's releasing all the feelings. So it's kind of like maybe that blister is like the fuck you no to no one. Like
Well,
that's the blister, you know what I mean?
I disagree about the scar thing because I feel like blister is very intentional because you get blisters from doing things, right?
That's a good point. That is a good point. Okay. Yeah, hard work, because you usually get blisters from hard work, that makes much more sense. Actually, I like that. I like that a lot. What do you think about the top of the song? Cast the pearls aside of a simple life of need.
Again, like it's just like the lyrics are so much.
Because pearls, I have to think is like rich or expensiveness or something. Because he talks about simple later, so again dualistic. But do you think that's where I was always struggled with? I feel like how that connects with the love part.
Well, you don't need anything else, right? If you have love.
I guess it is just that. It's just that simple. Yeah, you're right. Cast aside the shit you don't need.
You know what I just realized too? I don't know. It's so obvious, but it's like Courtney Love.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Well, wait a minute. Now that you said that, I have a note here that this was another song that she said was written about her.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
What's the lyric? Cast the pearls aside
of a simple life of need. But now you're telling me, but the lyric goes, love is suicide. So are we saying, that's,
well, what are we saying? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that gets real dark real quick if we look at it from that perspective.
Sure does.
Yeah.
All right,
he is provocative.
That's he needs a fucking muzzle is what he needs. Because
that
is, if we go that route, that makes the song real.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this song anymore.
Yeah, then it becomes like a very different kind of, it's like, it's kind of.
Oh, do I not want to know? Maybe I don't want to know. Don't meet your heroes, kids. Never meet your heroes.
Never
be disappointed.
Never.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to 33. Let's get to 33. Let's get to 33 before this gets weirder. Okay.
Yeah.
33 is a song I will tell you this right now. I don't know why this was a single.
I do. I feel like it was trying to get appeal to a slightly older listener. Kind of cover your bases. It's not my favorite single. It's probably I think Bullet honestly is my least favorite single. This is probably second least. It's still good. My note I made was gives the game away a little too on the nose.
I would agree with you on that. Because it's like, what is it? He says about steeple. I feel like it's got to be. It's a song about him and his wife, which I think a lot of the songs are that about them. The steeple. He's talking like, because he used the word steeple, so I always go back to a church, right? And he says, "Guide me to my heart and my home." So he's using that maybe he's trying the concept of marriage, like guide me back to perhaps a time when this marriage was better.
Well, I mean, doesn't this also have the line, love is just an excuse away?
Tomorrow
Yes,
is just an
This
excuse.
There
isn't
it
in
is.
my note, but I'm just remembering now, one of the most insane Billy Corgan things that just sticks out to me is in this song, Jaguar. He shoehorns Jaguar into the lyrics.
If he can get Dilly Dally into one song, he can get that into this one.
And
It's just-
he's got the jangly walk in this one.
The jangly walk, that's the thing I always I giggle about that one. Yeah, it's just him walking home, I think. Maybe trying to return, to I think what was, which was the way the marriage was, but I don't think he's gonna be able to get back there.
What do you think the 33 is about? What do you think because he's not 33,
Nope.
which would be a very, literal. Is it
I don't-
Jesus?
I think what were you gonna say, Jeff? You
I don't know. I thought this taking away from the personal story with him and his marriage, if there's a character and they're a teenager and you think of what your life is going to be like at 33, this is kind of what you're kind of thinking about, like, how am I going to like still love my spouse? I think there's a little bit of projection from a teenage mindset, which is why I kind of really like this song now more so than I think I ever did. I really, for me, just there's a line here where I've journeyed here and there and back again, but in the same old haunts, I still find my friends. It's kind of like saying like, oh, down the line, things might get tough, but the things that are important to me are still there. And I can always return back to those things and re-engage that spark. And I think to me, it's a projection from a teenager to what the future will look like.
I hadn't thought about it from the teenager perspective. I did think about it. It was like, I feel like that's what 33 feels like, being 33. But having it what a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid thinks 33 looks like is actually a very interesting concept to say, like, oh yeah, that's so like you said, sure, I'm 33, marriage might not be going great, but at the end, I still have my old haunts and my friend, because there's something else that comes after that. I still have friends. Mystery is not yet ready to reveal your sympathies. I'm ready to return. So yeah, it feels like there's some safety with the friends and your old haunts, because they're your old haunts, right? That even though things might get bad when you're an adult, there's still that chance for the friendships you made as a kid to help you out.
Right. And the mystery is not ready to reveal. Like there's still things that can happen, and I'll make the effort. Love can last forever. Like you just got to work at it, right? Like it's actually like a very mature point of view about.
That's interesting. Yeah, interesting to say that way. Because I can tell you this: 33, I felt like an adult. Like, oh, you're an adult. Yeah, you're 33.
Yeah.
Everybody likes you when you're 33.
But not 23. No one likes you.
Definitely not 23.
No.
I agree with you, Jeff. I feel like this was one I wasn't super into when I was younger. It might be like the other Skipper for me when I was, first listening to it, but I appreciate it more now.
Well, I'm sure Billy's happy to hear that, Joe.
Anybody need to refresh your coffee while we're at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flo is off because she's a chain smoker, so she's always out by the dumpster.
That's what that smell is. I always wondered what that smell was.
But looks like Irene is here, so.
Oh, Irene knew. She's new.
Yeah. She'll fill the coffee up. And then that will bring us on to the next song.
So the next song, okay, this is again, I think, an album where things work off each other. I think we got to talk about the next, well, they're not in sequence, but 3 songs together, because lyrically they connect. I want to talk about In the Arms of Sleep, Through the Eyes of Ruby, and Stumbling. All because of one pesky lyric at the end of Stumbling. So I'm going to start there, and we're going to work our way backwards. I like kind of going out of order. It's kind of a different thing. So the line in the line from Stumbling is the very last line, where it says, "Come around, Ruby, I can never sleep alone."
Yes.
We're literally referencing 2 previous songs. in like just like that. Now, so let's talk about stumbling as a whole. It one, it reminds me a lot of late Beatles stuff, where it's just like snapshots and lyrics, and none of it really kind of makes sense. It's just kind of words pushed together. But he's kind of, who do you think he's talking to?
No clue. No
I think a
clue.
kid. I think he's talking to a kid.
Oh, really? Okay.
The kid, all right, it's gonna get weird. I think this is a song where he wished someone told him,
Yeah.
because I'll be
Mhm.
your stumbling, whatever stumbling is, it doesn't matter. It's a made up thing, but I'll be your super queen. Like, I'll be that support system. We talked about earlier that Billy had a pretty, from what we understand, not so great. And I don't want to put that lightly. It sounded like a really bad upbringing. So I don't want to make light of that.
Yeah.
But that, I think this is him talking to whoever needs to hear it, that I will be your super, I'll be there. I'll be your total support person, whomever it is. I'll be your stumbling, whatever that is. I don't know, and I don't care, but I will be that for you.
Well, is a Stumbleline, like while you're saying that, like I always thought this song is like a fairy tale, like maybe because of like Thumbelina. But
Thumbelina, okay,
is Stumbleline is like, if you stumble, I'm there for you kind of person.
Right, exactly. I think
Yeah.
that is what this song is. And then you get this shock ending out of nowhere where he references 2 previous songs. So let's jump back to those. So the first one he references is Ruby. So that's the previous song. Joe, what do you think this song's about?
This song is epic. It's so good. I love this song. Loneliness. I feel like the comfort of just falling into exhaustion and having someone there. But then like the refrain at the end, the suffer my desire for you. Don't know who it is. I'll be anything to keep her here tonight, and I'll do anything to make it all right.
Do you think this is like basically like pleading a case to somebody, like to be there for this narrator? When like knowing that they're not the best person for the person they're in love with, but like they need them so bad, they need them to kind of suffer through this and just be there for them because that's what they need.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a line, and I'll always need her more than she will ever need me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a very one-sided kind of.
It is.
And the narrator is aware of that. The narrator realizes that they need this person more than the person needs them.
something I've always thought with the whole Courtney Love thing too is like, you've got this guy, and he's a super like rock superstar, and he's married, but like I feel like he has this connection with Courtney Love because she can appreciate that superstardom. But
Yeah.
then there's this other element where it's like and I don't know if this is what this song is about, but it's like she was involved with him, but then married Kurt Cobain, and then Kurt Cobain dies, and that really galvanizes Kurt Cobain as just this like untouchable voice of generation. And then he's always kind of like number 2, and he's number 2 in that relationship with Courtney Love in whatever context that existed or even still exists. So I don't know. I think he's just a real fragile guy.
He might just be. But it's funny. I feel like this is the song where he's putting himself out there. And Jeff, I think you're right. It's him talking about him needing someone who needs him a little less. And even in the title, he's looking in the arms of sleep, right? Kind of getting snuggly, you're kind of getting like you want to kind of drift off and go to sleep. There's a comfort with that. And that's what he's looking for, finding that person to be comfortable with. Could go out there, like, but he's just saying, "I need you tonight." Definitely is more him needing the person more than the other person needs him.
I don't even know if this is necessarily about a person. This might just be the need for relief or comfort.
Now, see, that connects with the with Stumbling. This is a song about the needing for comfort. And if Stumbling, if we're gonna go with my hypothesis, that Tim talking to maybe his younger self, or maybe talking to anybody who needs to hear that that he's there to be a support system, and here's a song about needing support. So maybe that's the connection between the two. And then you go into Through the Eyes of Ruby, the other song he references in Stumbling, which is I don't know about this one. This is a strange one. It's light. It's like tonally lightens up a little bit, but it's really, I think a dark song, but then it gets heavier. It's kind of an interesting way they frame this song. Are we? What do you think it is? The Eyes of Ruby. We talking rose-colored glasses?
Could be.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I found this one overall kind of like the one I really did not understand. Like it's like really all over the place with that. So I think, but I think always going back, as you'd say, Phil, look at the title. I think it's interesting that Through the Eyes of Ruby. Is Ruby a person? Is a Ruby way to look at something?
Because it's he's talking to, I can assume, his wife, because there's a lot of references to wedding in here. But it's that for me, where it comes in is, and with this ring, I wed thee true. Okay. Wed thee now. And then with this ring, I play so dead, but no one's asking for the truth. So let me tell you, I feel like this is a relationship that is dying, and he is trying to explain that to them. And they're looking at it. Don't look at, well, like right now you're looking at it through the rose-colored glasses, right? You can't, because this is not where a relationship is going south. Let's be honest here. So I think it's a weird way he's going about it, like stop. But I think that's where this song lands, I think.
Yeah, because you have the lines, if you spin your love around the secrets of your dreams, you may find your love is gone, and it's not quite what it seemed.
Right. Like we got into this relationship and I don't think, or this marriage, and I don't think this is what we both thought it would be.
Yeah.
Well, almost makes me, and this is a little bit of free association between the last song to this song. If the last song on a very direct level, it's about insomnia and like I just want to be able to go to sleep. This one is like, when we wake up tomorrow, this relationship is over. So I don't want to sleep.
Interesting. Now, what's the connection back to Stumbling?
Well, Stumbling you are going to wake up the next day, this relationship is going to end, and Stumbling could be like, I wish I had a Stumbling to help me through this breakup.
The next part, right? Yeah. So I feel like I'm glad that was a fun experiment to go through all three of those songs, because I love it when songs lyrically connect back to each other, but then to try to make the three connect in a way, it's really, I guess, all of them are about change.
Well, a lyric that jumps out too from, sorry to jump in, but from Stumbling towards the end says, I'll be your Stumbling, I'll be your super queen, and make you me. And so, you've got this marriage, because I don't think he was married for that long.
No, I don't think so either.
I feel like they got married maybe in like when Siamese Dream came out, maybe a little after. And they were divorced while they were recording Adore. And so maybe it is just like this inability, like they're not on the same level. Stumbling, like there's all these lyrics about like jukebox fuck up hanging around the drugstore, like youth. And then in Ruby, beneath to appear to disappear beneath all your darkest fears, to the revelations of fresh-faced youth. And then later he says, youth is wasted on the young.
Which it is.
But it's interesting. It's like, you have this album that's a love letter to his youth, and that acknowledgement is kind of like,
yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. I was just looking at it again. The come around Ruby, I can never sleep alone. And if I went back to the rose-colored glasses idea, I'm like, oh, is he selecting? He'd rather, so he doesn't have to sleep alone, look at things from rose-colored through those rose-colored glasses. Oh, that's what
Well,
being 33 is all about, I guess.
well, yeah. You don't want to be alone, right? That's
I want to be alone.
yeah.
Or is it, having those rose-colored glasses reflected back at you?
Oh yeah.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
and
that's
the
interesting.
feeling
Yeah.
of inadequacy that comes from being seen through rose-colored glasses.
Can't live up to that.
Right, because if you know that they're rose-colored glasses, you know that they're not seeing you, and you
For
know
what
that
you are.
they're not seeing you for what you are, and you know there's something inauthentic.
Isn't there a Shakespeare line, Jeff, with inauthentic? Well, I know you to your own self be, to thine own self be true, but I was trying to remember there's an inauthentic. Anyway, what are you gonna say, Joe?
I think that all three of these songs could be adore songs for
Oh,
sure.
interesting.
In the Arms of Sleep always and will always remind me of my 8th grade crush.
Do you want to go further than that, or you just want to
No,
go
it's
with that?
just the
Was
the
she an
stuff on the
insomniac?
door. Yeah, she was Insomniac. She was in Smashing Pumpkins. She was Darcy.
Was she
Yeah.
Darcy? I was gonna ask you, was she
I mean,
Darcy?
kind of. But yeah,
Look,
just it's so surface level. Just to like suffer my desire for you is very. It plays for a 13-year-old.
All these songs do, and they really do. They're like these is it's like if you read my 13-year-old journal, this
Yeah.
would be like, oh, I saw Betsy Sue the other day, and here's my poem I wrote about her, and it's
Yeah.
over the top. Sorry,
Where
Betsy
is
Sue.
Betsy Sue? Where is Betsy Sue these days?
I haven't checked in a while.
Didn't you used to go out with her and like throw toilet paper on trees and stuff?
Every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Did some crazy things when we were young.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you ever saw a music video from 1979, but certainly.
Have you ever thrown toilet paper on a tree?
No, toilet paper is a very useful product, and I need all toilet paper I can get.
That's why, Jeff, during the pandemic, you kept sending me pictures of those pallets of toilet paper that you were marking up and selling on eBay.
I don't think that was me.
You said this is going to pay for my place by the beach.
Oh, right. My toilet paper walled house.
Side hustle.
I have thrown toilet paper on a tree.
Have you? Yeah, I never.
One time.
How did you feel afterwards?
Like a cliche.
Okay, that was that.
Whose households were you toilet papering?
My high school.
Oh, the high school itself.
Oh,
okay.
well then, the high school deserved it. All right, I'm okay with it now, because I was gonna say I always felt bad. Well, maybe I don't, because I always feel bad for the people to clean it up. That's maybe, but that's me now. Me back then was like, fuck it, you're gonna get 2-ply.
Yeah.
No, groundskeeper Willie is out there shaking his fist at a young Joe, the toilet paper bandit. This is a good time to mention that Joe is from Long Island as well.
Oh yes,
that's
so.
Right.
If you remember the tales of the toilet paper bandit in Long Island, it was Joe.
It was Joe.
It was a short-lived career, just that one time.
We're going to talk about 1979. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. So can we listen to it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. And that was 1979. Have either one of you ever seen Clerks 2?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a pivotal point in the Clerks 2 where this song plays in a very emotional part. But like, I feel like when a song like that comes on, it's the song that I like know so well and love so much, it like pulls me out of the movie. And I remember having that experience with Clerks 2, just being like, oh, I'm just listening to this song right now. And then in Clerks 3, he does something similar.
Get back into the plot of Clerks 2 after you were taken out of it by 1979.
Yeah, 1979 always takes me out of it. It just starts, as soon as I hear that opening little drum situation.
Yeah.
And then
what's funny about the drums is when they played this, at least when they did it when I saw them, they had 2 people doing drums. One was playing an electric drum, and then one was playing a real drum.
Huh.
just to get the sound right. I thought that was interesting. I mean, that seems very, the 90s, but nowadays you just have the machine. You just hit a button and it would do it for you.
The other thing that's really important about this song, I don't know if you've seen the TikTok of Billy. It's the point of view of someone on a roller coaster, and it says Billy Corrigan on a roller coaster, and then it just the wee part is just extended. Wee. So really, that's why this whole song is important in 2023.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. I think, what's okay. So in 1979, Billy would have been 13.
Oh,
I bet that's why he named it this, because that's the start of being a teenager. I had to look it up and do the math, and I was like, you know what? Based upon the time, because he's also, I think he's March as a birthday. So this song is a song about being a teenager.
Yeah.
And that is all there is to it.
Yeah. I was 13 when this song came out. He was 13. My notes for this song are very short. I mean, ...
yeah. I don't even. I can't even talk about this song. It's just it's a mood, it's a vibe, it's everything.
Pop song. It's a perfect
Yeah.
it's an amazing song. I think the sound of it is very different than anything else on this album. It does kind of set the stage a little bit for Adore. But I mean,
funny thing, I'm gonna having this conversation where Billy was not a fan of punk rock because he was like, you should be good at your instruments. It made a note I made even more interesting. Because I made a note, he says, double cross the vacant and the bored. And I was like, is these subtle jabs at Sex Pistols and the Clash?
Interesting.
Because you got Sex Pistols have a song called Pretty Vacant. And then Clash is Born in the USA. And so I'm like, is he basically skipping out on the punk rockers?
That I have never thought of that. That's interesting.
It could have been just when I looked at these lyrics at like 6 a.m, I was like, well, maybe that makes sense. Sure, why not?
Just about his lyrics again. It's like, yeah, we're kind of talking shit about how they're so, high school poetry, but they are. He puts so much into them. They're not flippant.
He does. Yeah. He tries. Yes, he does. You're right. He really
not like
does.
Kurt Cobain, where he's just like word salading all over the place. They're almost contrived, like
they're over the top, but they're poems. They definitely are poems. And he puts effort into them. But yes, they're definitely on the dramatic side of life.
Totally. Yeah. Perfect pop song. This was the last song they recorded for the album.
Oh, interesting.
They almost didn't make it. They almost were going to save it.
See, I feel like this album needs this song, particularly where it lands, because it's about to get heavy.
Yeah.
Like real heavy.
Yeah. Perfect video, iconic video. We talked about it a little bit before. This is where Billy's maybe the first time with no hair in the back seat of the car singing. It's a bunch of suburban teenagers up to no good. It's just, it's an iconic video.
There's a vibe. It's a vibe about being a teenager.
Every video from the singles for this is a vibe. It matches perfect. They're all different. They all have a different, even the like warmth of it, or like Bullet is so cold. This one is kind of cold too. Like they're just,
but dreamy too, because it's night. Dreamy, it's like
just the tire. That's what I always think of.
Yeah. Well,
going over it again. The tire.
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah. All right. I mean, I remember watching this video and feeling like, wow, my teenage experience wasn't that cool. So I don't know, kind of gave me FOMO every time even to this day when I watch this video, I get FOMO. Like, why am I not having fun like these people?
I just
jumping in pools.
Like the 70s seem fucking awesome. Everyone's getting kidnapped and everyone's drinking lead and
yeah.
Pools.
What happens when you have latchkey kids? This is what happens.
Well, they scorched the earth, those latchkey kids.
They sure shit did. That's right.
Tales of a Scorched Earth.
I mean, it is. That's what a title.
Yeah.
Over the top. Once again, it's like that's what I would have named my book of poetry back when I was like 15. This is the Tales of a Scorched Earth. It's just very melodramatic.
He cannot help himself. He can't stop himself. it just comes out.
But I love it. I'm here
No.
for it.
Well,
You know,
this song fucking rules. It is a banger.
such a
It
good
is
song. So
screamy. It is definitely a forebearer of screamo to me, even though it's very different. But again, if we're going back to like why this is here, like we can go and do a song like this after 1979.
This song, yeah, it's such a turn, such an about face after 1979, and this one song makes me be like, "Are you sure you don't like any punk? Like none
Yeah.
of it?"
right? Like none
Yeah.
of it. Because this is like this reminiscent of No Feelings from just talked about Sex Pistols. I'm gonna bring him back. Like he literally talks about I have no more feelings. That's it. We're
Yeah.
done. I lie just to be real, and I die just to feel. Man, really, guy? That is emo. It's emo as fuck. Basic one thing. But it's like this is apathy and nihilism in a song.
Just yeah.
We're gonna leave a scorched earth after this. That's what I'm gonna leave behind. This is again like you imagine this like a 1-2 with "fuck you" and "no to no one," and then go into this.
Yeah. Gotta do it. I mean, fuck it. Should we listen to Tales of the Scorched Earth?
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, that song is just sick as hell.
Yeah.
The next two tracks we've already talked about, Through the Eyes of Ruby and Thumbelina. So we're going to XYU.
Amazing. One of the best songs on the album. Other than Coil My Tongue Around a Bumblebee Mouth, another standout lyric. And into the eyes of the jackal, I yell, kaboom.
Kaboom.
Boom. I can't get saying it out loud makes me giggle. Listening to it, I'm like, yeah, that's right, jackal, kaboom. But like,
say it just sounds like him just shrieking.
yeah, it's like what is it, Dr. Strangelove, where he's like falling down from the laugh on the way down, right in the bomb. Like that's what this is. It's like I am laugh, kaboom, jackal.
And then he's got the little like flippant. It's so like bitchy and sneer. The bye bye, channeling a little Robert Durst. Bye bye.
I also just because I'm a sister and I'm a motherfuck. Like
amazing.
Yeah, flawless. No notes.
Flawless victory. I have no idea what this really means, but I'm going to go with it.
What does XYU mean? What does XYU stand for?
Okay, I'm going to go with it. It's the alphabet, XYZ, and so instead of ending the alphabet on Z, we're going to end it on U. Like you. Who he's talking about? That's all I got.
I thought it was like XY University.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's Xander YOLO University. I don't know, but it isn't initials though, because there's periods in it.
Yeah, it's something.
Now
I like the XYZ actually. The XYU. I like that a lot. Phil, when you get your AOL letter out and everything, can you contact Billy Corgan? Just double check with him.
Yeah, the email address is billycorgan@smashingpumpkins.edu. Edu.
Real quick. The name Smashing Pumpkins, I never knew this until maybe like a year or two ago. The Smashing Pumpkins smashing is like the English use of it.
Oh,
it's not. Yeah,
like awesome, great.
Not the yeah, it's like the Splendid Pumpkins.
Oh, what? But Smashing Pumpkins is so
violent. It's like what he did after on the day after Halloween, and you need the pumpkins anymore.
Or like something like Gallagher would do. R.I.P.
Oh yeah. Just Billy Corgan from Tonight videos. Gallagher and pumpkins. Love it.
I love the idea of Billy Corgan just like Smashing Pumpkins now. Be like, this would be a great idea for a band name. Some kind of Charlie Brown it out with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do now during their live. They didn't do that. I saw them this fall at the Hollywood Bowl. They were amazing. But this tour that they're doing, because he owns like a wrestling company. He's very.
Does it really?
Yeah.
He's super into wrestling. He's super into sports. He's such a like a circle of contradictions. He's also really tall.
I did know that. Yes, like he's tall, like was it
You,
Pete Steele tall?
yeah, like you hear that voice and you're like, this is an imp, you know? No, he, you know, Charlie Brown grew up.
Wah, wah, wah.
Um,
He's a giant guy. He's a giant guy.
Well, giants only come out at night. So,
We only come out at night, sir.
oh, sorry, that's the name of the song, right?
Yeah. We only come out at night. This is a Beatles song again. I don't know why, man. I feel like this is such a late Beatles song. Am I wrong on that? Am I gonna get more hate mail? Again, direct your hate mail to me in New Hampshire. Hello. I love looking at the hate mail.
love this song. I love it. I think it's such, I think the next few, We Only Come Out at Night, Beautiful, and Lily are all like fun change of pace, because like this side is so heavy and it doesn't kind of pace it out like we were talking about side one. It's got like two songs that are kind of heavy, palate cleanse, something different. This one, like, it's so stacked. But then they come in with Only Come Out at Night, which I love. When I saw them in October or November, they played this song and it looked like it was like a black and white photo. The backdrop was a black and white photo that looked like the streets of London from like the 1800s. It was so cool and creepy, but like, I don't know. I think this song is fun. Spooky fun was my note.
Spooky fun, and also it's kind of a song about like imposter syndrome a little bit to me. Like no one really knows what they're doing. Is kind of like the vibe I get from the song is kind of like you'll pretend to know me well, my friends, and once again I'll pretend to know the way through the empty spaces, secret places of the heart. Like pretend to know these things. Like no one really knows, so I don't know, something, a current that's running through it.
And I think also with this, we only come out at night. Well, why? Because there's comfort in darkness. Although I find like is he still alone? Because he talks about being, I walk alone and walk alone to find the way home. It's like a nursery rhyme. I don't know. I just feels like, that basically it's about community in a weird way, but only when you come out at dark in nighttime.
It feels kind of like when you come out of high school and like you're around all these people and you kind of like maybe shrink away, and then like you come into your own and you find community. And in this sense, it's like we only come out at night, and that's when we see each other, and we can truly be.
Oh, so it sounds like a song about the scene. Another direct connection to the punk emo world, because you're an outsider at school, but then you go to a show at a catering hall or something, or a VFW hall.
VFW hall. Yep.
Also a missed opportunity to be a song about vampires. Could have been 2 vampire references in one album, which would have been really awesome. But no one's perfect.
That's right. No one's perfect.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Beautiful is just a love song.
Pretty pop song, balances, does the trick. Got a good melody. Not, it helps the album along, but it's not one of my, it's not a go-to.
I think it's a song to me about a crush. It feels like
this is a song that once again needs to work with the next song.
Right. It's very important. Right now it's just the crush, and it's the feeling the crush, and I'll be there for you, and like,
I like that. You go.
Oh no, go ahead.
The crush thing really makes sense because the line we talked about being pressed against glass, like they're on display, and there's a distance between them. So yeah, I see the crush part really well. That's a good point.
But the crush goes wrong in the next song.
Oh boy, does it go wrong. It's just, this goes wrong real quick. It's funny how you need these two songs to work with each other to get it. Because within Lily, he's this dude or person, a bit of a voyeur, right? And he's kind of taken. So I'm gonna assume that he's talking about Lily in Beautiful. How do you feel about that?
I think that's accurate.
I found this song, Lily, My One and Only, is kind of like the funniest song on the album.
It's their octopus's garden.
Yeah, it's just I mean, literally, like when you get to the point where like, oh, Lily, I know you love me, because as they're dragging me away, I swear I saw her raise her hand and wave goodbye. Like it just, I'm not sure if he meant it to be like creepy and scary, because it kind of comes off as funny, because it's like him dragging away, like, hey, see, she does like me.
It does, yeah. It's definitely got that like British, like 60s British sensibility of humor. And he even says it in the lyric. He says, silly, I know I'm silly.
Yeah.
It's really funny too, because they are so notoriously like not a funny, like not known for humor, known for earnestness, known for like artful, like over the top, pretentious kind of, think of
the king of gloom. He talked about it earlier. He's the king of gloom.
Right. So he's acknowledging, silly, I know I'm silly.
I think this, what do you think, Jeff? I think, what if this was an Alkaline Trio song? Does this fit better as an Alkaline Trio song than Smashing Pumpkins song?
It does, but I feel like Alkaline Trio would go harder into like
the macabre
metaphor of it a little bit. Because now what I've done now that Joe mentioned like a British 60s thing, I'm now casting Mr. Bean as the narrator, and watching him get dragged away is much funnier to me.
Yeah.
Rowan Atkinson.
For a moment, I went to the Ministry of Silly Walks, and that's like he's getting dragged away, but he's walking like the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, just a weird 1-2 between Beautiful and Lily. It's just like, it's almost like Beautiful is like the slightly more wholesome version of a crush, and then this one's like the kind of darker version of a crush. Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting that now we're talking about, as we talk about like a 28 song album, double album. Do you need these songs? Like,
well, this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, that like maybe what if you started cutting out songs?
No, I need them. I need them.
Well, this is the exhale part now. We got to the really hard stuff, and now we're kind of like we're bringing the plane in for a landing.
Well, and like beautiful, so straightforward. And like Lily has to be playful and twee to not be macabre, and like it's so him throwing a curveball, by making it this. I don't even know what you would call the style of this song. It is like a total Octopus's Garden.
It's funny. I referenced the Beatles a couple of times, and it is just kind of this oddity musically that just, and then it's this weird, it's just strange song.
Yeah.
By Starlight is our penultimate song.
I'm
very curious to hear what you guys have to say about this one.
I'm gonna defer to Joe.
As I've said, I love the whole album. I think it all hangs together. I wouldn't cut anything. And By Starlight, it feels like the bridge to a door. Like this feels songwriting that could be on a door. It sounds like a door. And he's so prolific. He just churns out songs. So it's like, I don't know if all of these, I don't know when they exist, like when they come into the world for him. I don't know if Adore songs could have been on this record and vice versa, but I do know that he said that Siamese Dream was almost a double album. Which is interesting, like just the volume of songs this guy writes is just crazy.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, the amount. And then for this one too, it's kind of like this like love song, but it's also kind of like it's got this darkness to it, because it's like, are your dead eyes? Or are you just like me? Or we both got dead eyes? Like, did I find my soulmate, even though we're kind of bad? Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because it definitely a better relationship. I think this is like the sister song to the Eyes of Ruby, because I feel like it starts really hopeful, like a marriage would, and I feel like as the song goes on, I feel like the marriage is kind of not going great, toward the end, because of the dead eyes part. Are you just like me, We're as vacant as a seas, dead eyes. Are you just like me? So it's really interesting to take that a couple different ways, because it's either him finding his soulmate or him realizing that this relationship is empty. We're both dead inside.
And it kind of you've got the nautical element, maybe harkening back to Porcelina a little bit too.
Okay, good point. Good point. So again, it's kind of hard. This album is one of those ones where you kind of have to take everything in tandem together.
Yeah, and I think because he's so earnest, it's hard to know what is metaphor and what is not.
Right.
Right.
I think that's the really difficult part of the lyrics for this album, and maybe why they get critically panned a little bit, is because they're kind of always. Sorry, my daughter just got home. She's screaming.
It's okay.
She wants you to say farewell and good night.
You don't know what's earnest and you don't know what's metaphor. And if you just take it all as literal, then yeah, that's insane that a grown-up would write this album.
But we were so glad the grown-up did.
Yeah.
Farewell and Good Night is the final song. I always took this as kind of like a lullaby, and like I think we mentioned earlier, it kind of brings it back to hopefulness. And actually,
Correct.
we go into the piano at the end, right? Like as the outro, a little bit.
It's very reminiscent of the intro. Yeah, and it's where they're all singing. I mean, Joe, you brought it up earlier. It's where they're all singing. It's unity because they're all together on it. There's a positive note at the end. With the lyric that says, good night, my love, to every hour and every day. Good night, always, to all that's pure, that's in your heart. It's like celebrating how you feel. And there's some comfort and unity in that.
But he's still got the Billy Corgan-ness of it all. The sun shines, but I
don't. Hey, but there'll be a silver rain will wash it away. Maybe for you, hopefully for you, silver. I always kind of like silver rain, maybe silver linings, maybe think of it from a positive way. Because it's time for sleep. There's a Sandman coming. I love reference of it, like the Sandman is coming to put you to bed.
Adam Sandler.
And it's just
Adam Sandler. Yep.
That's right. It's just I love that this is a song to wrap up the day that we've had. Right. If we're going to look at it from the dawn, the dusk, twilight to starlight, we've gone from dawn, which is the very start of the day, obviously, as the name implies, to the very end of the day. Which is starlight. So now we've come to the end.
Come full circle. We've got quite a dense double album. I love the bookendedness of it all. Mm-hmm. I love the theatricality through and through. I love it.
No, it's great. I mean, as far as double albums go, I think of this, The Fragile by the 9 Inch Nails. And
so that's interesting because for me, like those two albums are so tied up in high school for me, because this came out when I was in 8th grade, like just about to start high school, and then The Fragile came out at the end of high school, and just like these two monolithic double albums by like the biggest bands of that time, and I just love the self-indulgence. Like people always give double albums a bad, they say they're bloated and they're self-indulgent. I love it.
Well, you just want things to go on forever. Joe, that reminds me. We talked about Smashing Pumpkins. Clearly, they're very important to you. Yes. Who are on your Mount Rushmore of bands? Like of who kind of like oversee your palette?
My palette is kind of a cliche palette, I feel. So they would be in no particular order: Kraftwerk, the Velvet Underground, David Bowie, and Joy Division.
Wow.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ben Black Elk. He's often referred to as the 5th face of Mount Rushmore. He was a native rancher that would often like greet people coming to visit Mount Rushmore. So if I get a Ben Black Elk, it's my Bloody Valentine.
Oh wow, okay. That's some moody stuff on there.
There is some moody stuff on there. That's correct.
I'm a moody brooder.
You're Mr. Gloom.
Yeah.
Hey man, the sun shines, but not for me. Yeah.
All right, Jeff. We've gone through all these songs. I got some questions for you.
Okay. I'll give you some quick answers because
Quick answers. Let's go. I want to rat them off. What's the best? What's the best song of this all 28? You got 28 to choose from. What is the best one?
it's so hard on this one. Because I don't want to just pick a single because it's hard because I just have an attachment to them. I mean, tonight, it makes me feel great. It makes me excited about life. and I'm gonna dress like them in the video eventually every day. So
Every day.
What's it gonna take? You've been threatening that for a while. What's it gonna take for that to happen?
I don't know.
All right, new side quest. Let's figure out how we can get Jeff a bowler hat.
It's not just the bowler hat, it's the jacket, it's everything.
It's everything.
But I just need enough that I don't have to like do dry cleaning constantly, so I have enough to go through a while because dry cleaning might take a few days. So I need to have at least 2 weeks worth of them.
It's
very
pragmatic of you.
You can't be washing your crushed velvet at home.
No, you can't.
No.
Joe, what about you? What is the best song for you? I feel like this is gonna be a hard one for you to answer.
I think my favorite. I think I said it when we went over it. I think my favorite song is Muzzle. I don't know that it's musically like the most interesting one, but like that's the one that just has always spoken to me. It's always grabbed me. I love it.
I'm gonna go with "Fuck You" and "Older No One." I think it's the best song. I think it's the best song. I think it's the best song. Jeff, what were you gonna say, Joe?
Oh, I just said it's great.
Great song. Great song. Jeff, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. What's your least favorite or worst? Least good, not as good. How'd you put it?
Sorry to say this because I know Joe spoke very highly of it, but Cupid Deluxe is out for me. Get your Doths and your Shakespeare out of here, you know. That's what I'm saying.
Well, buckle up for a door then.
Joe, what about you? What do you think is the least great, not as good? It's okay.
Weakest is To Forgive.
Weakest To Forgive. Yeah. I only because I really don't get it. It's Galapagos. I just don't see it making much sense. And if I had to cut a song, that's the first one I'm cutting.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just not a Galapagos guy. Don't like it.
Wait, so are we all side one cuts?
Well, that's another question I got coming. So Jeff, Sleeper. What's the sleep song? The one that people are like, yeah, it's okay, but you think it's amazing.
I don't know if people think it's okay, but like Bodies is like just a banger, and I don't feel like people talk about it enough, and it's so awesome. It could have been a single, it's in my mind.
Joe, what about you?
I think Where Boys Fear to Tread.
Nice.
I think Tales of Scorched Earth is like such a great song. Such a great song. Now, if I look at this really quick,
the sleepers are all on the second.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. So, okay,
Yeah.
Everything seems to be side A for best and worst. Actually, it is. For best and worst, everything is side A. And then side B is where all our sleepers are. All right, last question. What's the better side? Side A, side B?
So hard.
I would have said side
Dawn
A.
to Dusk versus Twilight to Starlight.
I would have said side A before this re-listen.
Ooh,
But
interesting.
I think it's side B for me now.
Side B. Joe?
I think I'm going side B.
All right, it's a trifecta because I say side B. Which is
All right.
hilarious. Which is hilarious that we say our bests and worst are all on the side A, but we're all picking side B.
All right, so now we're gonna.
And like 4 out of the 5 singles are on side A,
Yeah.
but not the most popular single.
This once again harkens back, Jeff, to the idea that I have that side B is often better than side A. Because look at Nirvana's Nevermind. Side B is way better than side A. Hot take, I know.
Have those letters arrived at your place yet? From the first time you said that.
I am on the seas with Porcelina on this for how vast this is. I'm swimming through them. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I think this was a fantastic deep dive into one of the most important records of our lifetime. Joe, where can people find you on social media?
I am at Aperol_shrimps with a Z on Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
Perfect.
You want to check me on LinkedIn? I just got a new job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on
Thanks.
that. Good job.
Thanks so much.
As always, folks at home and people watching us on YouTube, you can follow us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram, both of which are Millennial Diner Podcast. I got that right this time. I also want to give a shout out to our, I think we promoted her now that she's an executive producer. So I want to promote our executive producer, my wife, Megan, for doing all the stuff she does with the social media and not kicking my ass from time to time because she's so much better than I am. I'll be honest.
All right. Well, until the next one, Joe. Hopefully you'll come join us again at the diner.
I would love to. This was so fun.
Glad the diner is always here to welcome everybody. I'm trying to get a good cheeky something in here that's connected back to Smashing Pumpkins. I just can't find it.
Well, I think we should all go be Gallagher and go Smashing Pumpkins on our own.
Done.
Talk to you guys next time. Have a great night, guys.